Good morning to you. Good morning, everybody. Yes, this is the Newsroom show live from Johannesburg here in South Africa. Of course, myself and Elvis will be with you until midday today, Elvis.
Yes, it was a day of love yesterday, Eben. Valentine's Day celebrated, and today we're talking about gangs.
Gangs and violence. There's no love lost, mind you, in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. Seems to have also turned the attention now to young school learners to join gangs, pay protection fees, or even die. So our question to you is not just in Port Elizabeth, we're talking the whole country, all our communities, Elvis.
How do we combat this thing called gangsterism in our schools and in our communities? That's what we want to know from you. Let us know what's on your mind. How do we deal with this issue?
We've got a special feature that we're going to look at first up this morning. It's very interesting about what is happening and how scary it actually is for young school children in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. But we're also running a poll, and of course a little bit later we'll speak to the credit ombudsman about this. But we're asking you this question, Elvis. Did you check out the missus?
You know, if you haven't checked out your missus, you might be in for a surprise, for a high jump, they call it.
A rude awakening.
So we're asking you the question, should you check out your partner's credit record before marriage? Well, so far 106 votes in Eben. 71% of South Africans are saying, yes, you should check out your madam.
You wouldn't say it to her face, though, I'm sure, or his face. Tell you that. 106 votes, 71% say yes, you should check them out. That's a little bit sneaky, isn't it? Anyhow, my mother used to say, well, there's no money, there's no love. It's as simple as that, Albert. So
there you go.
We get it. We get where it's at. We've got a couple of tweets, mind you, on this.
Yeah, but yes. Where's the tweets? This one from Siafana says, yeah, but yes, I check everything. Then 2014, I arranged to get married to my lovely wife. So she first checked out on her credit record.
To marriage able. He's able to marry. Cheers. Temba Shabango. He says, no, why should you? You shouldn't check out. Temba, you're in for a rude awakening somewhere down the line, my friend. But that's your tweets. Keep tweeting us on that question at 11 o'clock today. We'll talk to the credit ombudsman about this issue and about the kind of pitfalls that partnerships, marriage, and the like couples fall in when they head into or head down this road without knowing what your partner has been up to. Of course, there's a big storm heading for South Africa. Her name is Dineo, obviously, and she's about to make landfall here in South Africa, and we're all bracing ourselves for this storm.
Yeah, we're going to have Paul Monari or Tsitsi Monari a little bit later on to give us a little bit update on this particular storm. But look at that shot. Absolutely fantastic shot of Dineo.
That is Dineo. Dineo is about, these are genuine pictures of the storm Dineo that's gathering in the, just past Madagascar in the Indian Ocean, about to make landfall here in South Africa. You guys are a little bit worried about it, but Pela Harris says, so the storm that hit home yesterday is called Dineo. Yes, it's called Dineo.
EG says, Dineo is coming to demolish everything because you didn't include her on your will. See, she's a side chick and psycho. Be prepared.
My brother, really. The gentleman comes and he says, people are trying to find issues where there are none. Calm down and just be happy that they gave the hurricane an African name. Yes, but the Neos are tweeting now saying, they're ruining their lives now.
This one from Pondomiso says, I want my change from my high school. My geography teacher said that Madagascar protect us from the cyclones now. Dineo will hit KZN.
Well, the storm is so big, it went right over Madagascar. This one from Kosi, he says, there's a destructive woman called Dineo on the way from Mozambique to Mzansi. Stay indoors. Cyclone Dineo, heavy rains, heavy weather, as SA report. Tsetse Minari will give us a total update a little bit later in the show to tell us what do we do, what do you do, how do we prepare for this, and us on the Highveld, should we be worried? Those are the key questions we're going to ask him, but let's get into our work. There's a lot of news happening, of course.
The health minister confirmed that 7 of the 27 NGOs in Gauteng, where 94 mentally ill patients died last year, haven't been shut down. The South African Weather Service forecasts localized flooding around the Kruger National Park, as well as the Mpumalanga Lowveld and some areas in Limpopo tomorrow as the tropical storm Dineo reaches South Africa, and she looks very angry, as you can see there on those pictures. And the South African Human Rights Commission's two-day national hearing on racism and social media kicks off today in Bloemfontein, Johannesburg. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning, Kendall.
Elvis, good morning to you. To you too, Eben. You know what, going into the weekend and ahead of hitting our shores, quite a lot of great sports on the cards. Football, galore.
So last night, Barcelona redeemed Orlando Pirates. Is that true?
You know what? They've actually made Pirates old news. They got humiliated last night out in Paris. Fantastic news for people that do not like Barcelona, but those that are Barcelona fans, sorry for you. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today. Chipa United deny Mamelodi Sundowns a top 3 spot, holding them to a 1-1 draw at the walk-to-log Sisa Dukashi Stadium in Mdantsane.
Tonight we're playing percentage football because it's like rugby. We can't play on the ground.
Di Maria can hit them, as we know, with his left foot, just like that.
A shock result in Paris as birthday boy Angel Di Maria puts on a sizzling display, bagging a brace as PSG destroy a confused and lackluster Barcelona by 4-0.
And the Academy have chosen Nico Rosberg.
And on a night of surprises, retired Formula 1 driver Nico Rosberg beats world record holder and Olympic gold medalist Wade van Niekerk to the glorious Breakthrough of the Year award. All this and more I've got for you later on in the sports bulletin about 10:40. For now, it is back to Elvis who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. 7 of the 27 NGOs in Gauteng, where 94 mentally ill patients died last year, have been shut down, and the rest will be shut down in due course. Now, this was announced by the Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi and the newly appointed Gauteng Health MEC Gwen Ramakopa at a media briefing in Pretoria. The minister also disclosed that the bodies of 19 of the patients are yet to be claimed. The patients died after they were moved from Life Isidimeni health care centers to the NGOs.
The South African Police Services has started this work as early as September 2016 with forensic investigations and the processes to help identify some of the bodies not yet claimed by relatives. At the moment, I'm aware that they are busy with identification and postmortems on at least 19 bodies.
There is a process of the social workers and the Department of Social Development, and in that healing session, there will still be all these experts as well to support the families and to ensure that the families, are fully involved.
The South African Weather Service has forecast localized flooding around the Kruger National Park as well as the Mpumalanga Lowveld. Now, some areas in Limpopo have also been warned of the floods as tropical storm Dineo is expected to reach South Africa tomorrow. The storm is currently classified as severe and is over the Mozambican Channel. It is likely to intensify to intense tropical cyclone status by as early as this time tomorrow afternoon. Now, in fact, tomorrow afternoon, not this time. Dineo is expected to make landfall near Inhambane in southern Mozambique this evening. It's likely to pack winds of up to 166 kilometers per hour. Forecasters say that people in areas that will be affected should take precautions. The South African Human Rights Commission will today start the hosting of a 2-day national hearing on racism and social media in Bloemfontein, Johannesburg. The Commission says despite the significant achievements over the past 22 years of democracy, deep inequalities and unfair discrimination remain commonplace. It says the majority of complaints received by the Commission relate to discrimination based on race. During the past financial year, it received over 500 race-related complaints. The Commission says the advent of social media has further complicated the country's attempts to address discrimination. Meanwhile, comedians, satirists and political commentators need not worry about being gagged. That's the assurance from the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffries. Now, he was addressing a roundtable discussion on the Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Bill.
The Deputy Minister of Justice wants to know why his department shouldn't criminalize hate speech. This in a country where the majority of black people are often publicly referred to as either monkeys or the K word. According to Jeffrey, it is the people behind such vile comments that the bill will target. He says comedians, satirists and ordinary law-abiding South Africans need not be concerned.
Obviously, we can't be too oversensitive about people's dignity, and you know, people have to accept that you can get told things you don't like. The question is that abuse of a person because of their group they belong to, whether it's religious, whether it's gender, you know, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity, is something we need to look very carefully at.
Matthew Clayton from the Hate Crimes Working Group disagrees. He says the bill as it stands currently infringes on citizens' rights to freedom of speech.
The way that it's currently written goes beyond what we understand as hate speech in this country and beyond incitement to violence, and goes much broader to encompass insult, and the way that it's written at the moment is a very broad way and could potentially limit freedom of expression. I think a lot of people are concerned about that.
The discussions were organized by the Catholic Parliamentary Liaison Office.
I think there was clarity. I mean, I kept hearing people saying, thank you, that makes sense. I kept hearing people saying, yes, but, and both of those are ways of providing clarity. So I think it more than adequately assisted in the process.
The bill is currently before Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, which recently wrapped up public hearings on it. Lukhanyo Khalada, SABC News, Parliament.
That's your news for now. Now, today we focus on gangs. Yesterday we celebrated the Day of Love, and today we focus on violence. The question that we pose to you is, how do we combat gangsterism in our schools? That's the question we pose to you. Let's start off that conversation. It's over to you, Eben.
Yeah, Elvis, we've got a special feature today, actually. A very good morning to you. Gangs in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. Well, they seem to have turned their attention on school learners. A new intimidatory method is being used to either recruit new members or extort money from learners. Now, a bullet with your name on it is put on your desk. Join, pay the protection fee, or die is the message that comes with it. Now, Helen Vale and Galvindale are well-known ganglands of Port Elizabeth, playing host to violent crime since the 1960s. There are currently 17 gangs operating in the northern areas alone. Jade Lee Polzer has looked into this new phenomenon and filed this report.
The streets of Helen Vale. Here, children as young as 8 years old are roped in to join a gang. For many families, the threat is real. A threat that follows children to school.
During first interval, and me and my cousin were standing at the tuck shop, and then this group of boys came running up to us and asking us for money to pay. And then they said we didn't have. And afterwards, they threatened us and said we're gonna beat us up.
The victim's mother is not taking any chances with her son's life.
He was afraid, and then he asked me to take him out of the school. After the incident, he didn't go back to the school at all because of that. And the gangsters, or these guys that intimidated or that victimized him, they are actually living in the same vicinity. So it's difficult to come forward and tell or say what happened to the principal or the actual teachers, as they are currently living in our area. So which makes it for me a bit frustrating that I can see them, you know, they bullied my child, I can see them walking around and I can't do anything.
Others don't have the same choice. You either join for a life of crime or you buy your life.
A classroom is supposed to be a place
where learning occurs, where students feel safe. But there are many scholars in the northern areas who face daily obstacles: fear, intimidation, and also dodging bullets. The mother's plea to the education department has also evoked no response yet.
I feel frustrated and I feel angry that nothing is being done, seeing that I'm not the only person that speaks up. There's a lot of people that are victims to these crimes, and that can attest to saying that their children are living in fear because of this that's happening at the school.
The police say this was an isolated incident and that nobody has come forward to tell them about what's happening in the schools.
We are aware of one situation at the school in the northern areas, but cases that are actually happening in these areas are not reported to the police. Most probably it's maybe reported to the school itself.
The victims have not reported anything out of fear for revenge attacks. The victim we spoke to lost his friend.
A bullet with his name on it. They said they're going to kill him, and a few days later they shot and killed him also as well.
Bayview Primary School is directly opposite Lead Street in Katanga. Here the bullets often fly between rival gangs. Teachers at this school endeavour to keep the children off the streets and safe behind the fence, with windows tightly bolted down.
We also realize as teachers that these kids are many a time traumatized. They traumatize, and that's why we have to walk an extra mile. For us, we are not educators, we are first parents.
Social workers say that gangsterism is not solely a criminal or law enforcement problem, and treating it as such only worsens the situation. Justin Olifant runs a youth rehabilitation center in Galvindale. He says gangsterism is a culture. It's not only about drugs, but also about status, expensive clothes, and access to easy money.
It seems like kids are now becoming more determined to fight for their space in gangs and, in the criminal underworld, because there's money. And let's face it, if I'm going to be able to put food on the table tonight, by hook or by crook, a lot of these young people are going to do it.
This is Bongo Street in Helenvale, or otherwise known as Katanga. Right now, as you can see, the street is very quiet, but once the sun goes down, it becomes a totally different story. The area has a high learner dropout rate. Children as young as 10 are not attending school. These children are street hardened.
If the authorities are going to effectively counter what's going on in our schools now, they will have to start probably literally from grade R up.
Last year, a multidisciplinary task team was established by the Minister of Police, Nathi Nhleko, to tackle gangsterism. It is making inroads.
We have already arrested over 100 gangsters from the northern areas that are currently in our prisons awaiting trial.
Last year, I think the total of murders in the northern areas was 267. Galvindale and Bettelsdorp police stations. 267 murders for an area as small as ours. That's crazy. That's not the whole Nelson Mandela metro. That's only our areas. Life has become expendable, and it's become very cheap.
No official statistics have been published about gang-related deaths, but a source close to the investigation says that this figure is an accurate reflection. The community is also pulling together, calling for peace. Their message captured on this mural, hoping it will resonate with the gangsters.
We are sick and tired of all the gangsterism in our community, and it's like we want something to look at. When the guys come past, actually this space is a space where the guys normally come and shoot at each other. So we wanted them to see that we are actually tired of these things, you see. And this is also a place that the children use a lot to play soccer and things, you see.
Teachers in the area also fear for their lives.
Teachers don't want to come and teach here, and we need to be strong. But as I say, I will always motivate my teachers, and they know that also. And I think they are really warriors. Just the mere fact that they accepted and still stay on in Helenville.
The Eastern Cape Department of Education says it will investigate the allegations.
And we're going to go back to the northern areas to pilot a program on school safety and youth leadership. We're going to do that with the help of the school safety program in our department and UNICEF.
Actually, we're not even scared anymore of the guns because it's a usual thing. Every day, the guys, they tempt us, you see. They rob us, they take our phones and things, but we do nothing, you see, because as long as we have our lives, you see.
For Darrell and Brendan and many other community members here in the northern areas, peace is all they want, to ultimately bring unity and, for most of all, to stop the gang violence. Jade Lee Paulser, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Not only in Port Elizabeth, it's a similar story in many other communities throughout South Africa. So that's why we ask you the question. Gangsterism, yes, it's an issue, but now recruitment's happening in our schools. How do we combat gangsterism in our schools is what we ask you guys. You guys are tweeting us feverish on there. Let's have a look at some of the tweets that you guys are sending in. Ryan sends this tweet. He says, this is where government needs to be radical and unapologetic. Deploy SANDF and root out gangs and cartels, he says. Save South Africa. Joanna comes and she says, expose and educate what gangsterism is and does. Gang members often claim they were ignorant regarding what they were getting into. That's very, very mature way of looking at it. Lakasa comes and says, community police forum together with the SAPS members working with school governing boards can combat gangsters at schools. Nothing more. Salute to you. Sipo says gangsterism can be overcome in schools and community by removing them out of both sides and put them in their shelter, says Sipo. Keep it coming. We'll play that package a little bit later in the show once again. If you've missed it, or you can just go onto our live feed on YouTube and have a look at it and tweet us what you think. But let's now go onto our social feeds and have a look at what are the main trends at this hour. Of course, yesterday was SONA debate, and that hashtag, well, the parliamentary debrief that took place yesterday after the chaos that we saw last week. There was much to be debated about. Many people are talking about, well, all the leaders' speeches that were on offer on the day. Then people are also talking about the hashtag Life Isidimeni tragedy. Now, 7 of the 27 NGOs in Gauteng, where the 94 mentally ill patients died last year, have now been shut down. The rest will be shut down throughout the rest of the year, it seems. Then, from a tornado in 2016 to a tropical storm, that's the hashtag, in 2017. Weather patterns are certainly changing here in South Africa, and Tropical Storm Dineo is set to make landfall in Mozambique at midday today and then move over into South Africa. So please keep on watching the broadcasts to find out what you can and should do with regards to, well, being safe during this storm that will be hitting our shores for the next couple of days. Of course, the other hashtag that was in the news last night, Laureus Sports Awards, took place in Monaco. Usain Bolt won Sportsman of the Year, and American Simone Biles won Sportswoman of the Year. But the night didn't go without a little bit of fun. Here's a group selfie with the winners, and they also got the whole crowd doing the dab. Very interesting. Look at that. Great picture. Great picture. They had a lot of fun, along with the great and the good in Monaco. Now, let's take a look at our poll. Yep. Should you check your partner's credit record before marriage? That's what we put out to you guys today. 142 votes in, 72% say yes. Check them out. Check that man out. See if he's a fake or a fraud before you marry him. Make sure the woman is not a serial killer if you marry her, and so forth. But would you say that to her face? This one comes from Temba. He says, no. Why should you? Why should you check her credit record, he says. Sipo says, Oh, yes, I can do a checkup, sir, before getting married. See, everybody has secrets and issues. Yes, Lechasa says, yes, you should check if she is blacklisted or not. She might fail to fulfill your marriage needs as well because she's a bad payer. Yes, she might be a bad payer, says Lechasa, but it could also be the gentleman. We shouldn't always make out that the ladies have the bad credit records. Maybe the gentlemen out there are the bad payers. So we should all, of course, at 11 o'clock, a little bit later, we'll do the interview with the credit ombudsman and he'll talk to us about that. But let's take a look at our picture of the day. These are the latest pictures coming in from Mozambique. As Dineo, yes, that's the name of the storm, as Dineo is just starting to make landfall. That's the latest photo taken moments ago of Tofo Bay. That's in the Inamban. That's, of course, talking about the tropical storm that's in the air. Is now, well, is making landfall as we speak between now and midday today in Mozambique. You see the pictures there. Those, those heavy clouds will be coming into South Africa and causing lots and lots of rain and damage. So please be prepared. Now, our comment of the day regards the storm, a little bit of light-hearted fun. It's our very own reporter, of course, in Nelspruit. His name is Mweli Masilela, who says, if you've dumped a girlfriend by the name of Dineo, make sure you are indoors and safe. She's now coming in the form of a storm. A little bit of light-hearted humor there with regards to Dineo. Let's take a look at what's happening in the courts quickly. We'll start in the capital, that's Pretoria, where alleged rhino poaching kingpin Hugo Ras and 9 others are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court for their bail application. One of the co-accused is a former police officer, Willie Oosthuizen, who worked for the organised crime unit in Pretoria. Then in Bloemfontein, 6 suspects aged between 21 and 33, all belonging to the Maroma gang. They're expected to appear in the city's magistrates court on a charge of murder. Now, the deceased there was allegedly stabbed by the gang members during a planned robbery. Then down in the Eastern Cape, the manager of the Nguma municipality is expected to appear in the Butterworth magistrates court. Sindile Tansi was arrested on the N2 yesterday. He faces charges of fraud and corruption amounting to millions and millions of rands. Down in the Western Cape, the man accused of murdering an openly gay Khayelitsha woman is set to appear in the Blue Downs Magistrates Court. Yes, the body of 22-year-old Noluvo Swelindawo, known to her friends as Vovo, was found early in December, a few days after she was abducted from her Drift Sands home. Her body had a gunshot wound. Now, the 24-year-old accused is facing charges of kidnapping, murder, and housebreaking. Interesting story. We'll keep you updated how they develop in the courts today. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll look at racism in social media. Of course, I've been talking to the Human Rights Commission about that, the hearings that start today. Don't go away.
Now, over the past year, South Africa has seen a rise in racist rants on social media, as well as other isolated hate speech incidents coming to the fore in the online space. Now, this has caused great discomfort and alarm among South Africans. And there's even a hate speech bill on the cards being prepared to address the culprits. We spoke to Human Rights Commission's Senior Legal Officer, Thandiwe Matthews.
Now, over the past year, we've seen a rise in racist rants on social media, as well as other isolated hate speech incidents coming to the surface in the online space. This has caused a great deal of discomfort and alarm amongst South Africans, and there is even a hate speech bill being prepared to address this. Now, joining us in studio this morning is the Human Rights Commission Senior Legal Officer, Thandiwe Matthews. Very good morning to you, Thandiwe. Thanks for being with us.
Good. Thank you for having me.
The National Investigative Hearing on Racism and Social Media in South Africa is what it's called, and you guys are hosting it on the 15th and 16th, which is later this week. Tell me a little bit about the terms of it and what you guys are hoping to achieve with it.
Well, the majority of our race-related complaints our equality-related complaints have been race-related. And last year, the Commission celebrated 20 years of its existence or its establishment, and racism formed the theme of that conference, noting the fact that a lot of these complaints have been transmitted via our social media platforms, though. We thought it necessary to not only discuss the content of racism that exists in our country, but also the role of social media in either creating the perception or the reality that racism is still an issue in our landscape. Also because social media is kind of a new media platform, trying to regulate the extent to which users should be using it responsibly. I think it's still a new area of law that is yet to be explored. What constitutes hate speech on a platform of social media? All of these issues are going to be discussed at the hearing because there is no real kind of answer to these questions.
Would it be fair to say that the HRC has been inundated with complaints over the last calendar year and it's increasing and it's becoming a problem even for yourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it is increasingly being lodged through social media platforms or as a result of complaints that have gone viral through social media. There are two views, obviously. One could be, well, what is the size of a social media audience? Is that really reflective of a broader South Africa's perspective on racism? Or is it just the tip of an iceberg of pointing towards deeper social fissures that exist in our society that we're not grappling with effectively? So that's going to be the content of the discussion.
And who is going to be having those discussions? Who's going to be leading and who's going to be helping us to get our heads around this thing?
So our hearing panel will be comprising of our new commissioners that have just recently been appointed. The new chairperson, Commissioner Majola, he'll be assisted with Commissioner Angie Makwetla, as well as Justice Albie Sachs will be assisting us as an external panelist. Some of our respondents include state departments such as the Department of Justice, Department of Arts and Culture, Basic Education, Higher Education, and then a lot of civil society organizations such as the Freedom of Expression Institute, FW de Klerk Foundation, AfriForum has been invited. So we're going to have quite a diverse range of views at the hearing.
I want to talk about jurisdiction a little bit because whenever there's an issue of this nature, people come to you guys at the Human Rights Commission as if you can sort this problem out immediately. That's not the case. Talk to me about jurisdiction and who do you believe people should be complaining to and who should take responsibility ultimately for this kind of behavior?
Well, that's exactly what the hearing seeks to unpack. At the moment, the Human Rights Commission is mandated with monitoring human rights or a culture of human rights in the country. However, when it comes to disputes between two private entities, it becomes very difficult to resolve. There are lots of fora available to you if you want to resolve a complaint where you want to allege discrimination. The equality courts, the Commission can assist you with the equality courts as well as mediation. But, you know, does that really then solve the broader systemic issue of racism and social cohesion or the lack thereof in our society? And those are the kinds of issues that we want to unpack. To what extent should the Commission be involved? What role should the Commission be playing? What does the country need the Commission to be doing? So we hope to get a lot of answers.
We've been running a poll. I want you to have a look at it because we kind of feel that we always give pride of place to any bigoted uttering on social media. It's a headline the next day. So we ask the media's role, and maybe we can talk about the media's role and then the numbers here. Does the media give too much airtime to social media racists and bigotry is what we're asking. 115 votes, 2/3 are saying, yes, the media does. Talk about the media's role and what do you think it should be going forward?
Well, the National Action Plan to Combat Racism and Xenophobia that our country will be adopting soon, or is in the process of implementing a draft, this has been set out by the Department of Justice, speaks to the role of the media towards contributing towards social cohesion. Those terms, however, have not been fully defined, and so to what extent should we be regulating the media? To what extent should the media be playing a similar role as what the state does in terms of human rights obligations? Those are all things that haven't been defined yet. In terms of the much anticipated hate crimes and hate speech bill that is out for comment at the moment, or just closed at the end of January, that's something that also needs to be discussed. You know, if you do share a tweet on social media that could be construed to be racist, would you then also be contributing towards hate speech? And to what extent should you be held accountable as a private entity?
How far along is the bill right now, and do you expect it to make an immediate difference with regards to hate speech in general, but racism in particular?
Well, the bill is, it's just been closed for comment on the bill at departmental level. It still needs to go to Parliament for robust discussion. So I think it will still take some time before we see any implementation. I think the bill could change in form. It will go out for more rounds of comment before it's finalised.
How do you at HRC think? How do we change the dynamic of societies and communities thinking, and how do we create this dream of social cohesion or unified understanding?
Well, I think law and policy can only help to a certain extent. You know, I think there needs to be a lot more debate. We need to have more structured dialogues. And we need to kind of move to where contemporary issues of race that intersect with poverty, inequality, exclusion, those conversations are being had in a multifaceted manner, not just kind of fixated on single story issues, and kind of not get caught up in the hype. I think we need to kind of have a more nuanced debate about these issues.
I agree. I think a more nuanced debate is what is needed. Thandiwe Matthews is the Senior Legal Officer at the Human Rights Commission. They're having national investigative hearings on the 15th and 16th. That's on Wednesday and Thursday to discuss the issues we're having with regards to, well, the rise of racism on social media. Is there a rise of racism on social media, or is it just the fact that social media is rising? Anyhow, these are the questions that we'll be looking at a little bit later in the week when these hearings on racism in social media get underway. Yeah, that interview was recorded a little bit earlier this week. Of course, today it gets underway, those hearings. One of the keynote speakers will be Albie Sachs and a whole host of other people. It's happening here in Braamfontein in Johannesburg. Today, of course, our question of the day relates to gangsterism after we saw a really sad piece a little bit earlier from Port Elizabeth. How do we combat gangsterism in our schools? Yes, a bullet gets put on a child's desk and said, join the gang, pay protection, or get shot. Your choice. This is what you guys are tweeting us. Sipho comes back, he says, gangsterism can be overcome in schools and the community by removing them out of both sides and putting them in their shelter. Konanatso says, we need to upgrade the systems in policing, especially at school. Firmness is needed. Tougher actions must be taken on these kids. Yes, and a lot of the gang members are children themselves. That's true. Bantu says, Newsroom, in my days, we were searched at the gate. Maybe surprise police visits twice a month to keep everyone on their toes. Interesting one there from Bantu. Keep it coming. How do we overcome the issue, the problem with gangsterism in our schools? Some people say deploy the SANDF. It's not as simple as that. Anyhow, keep tweeting us. But let's now go around the world and have a look at the front pages. We'll start in New York. The New York Daily reports that the besieged National Security Advisor Michael Flynn resigned on Monday after less than a month in the job, admitting he misled the vice president and other senior officials about discussions he had with Russia's ambassador to the US regarding sanctions. Then, moving to China, the China Daily says that China's consumer prices beat market expectations in January to hit a 3-year high thanks to pickup in consumption and travel activities during the spring festival season. But analysts said inflation may ease in February and not become a major concern this year. Finally, in the UK, The Guardian reports that the strange half-brother of the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has died in Malaysia. This has been confirmed by police after he told authorities he'd been attacked in a shopping concourse at Kuala Lumpur airport. Now let's take a look at what you can see on our Facebook page. A violent student protest has erupted at the Tshwane University of Technology in Pretoria, prompting the institution to now shut its doors. Then, Nigeria declared an air pollution emergency in a major southern city yesterday and closed an asphalt plant there after residents complained about the fumes from its furnaces in a country plagued by corruption and poor governance. Then, the White House says the United States President Donald Trump asked for the resignation of his national security advisor due to an evolving and eroding level of trust. All of those and more on our Facebook page. Go to the page, like our page. If you like our page, you'll get all the latest in your feed. Social media seems to have become fertile ground for those who want to cultivate hate and hate speech based on race, religion and other social intolerances. But it seems that the media's role is a lot more important to govern these incidences, as we often jump to every isolated racist post, perhaps spreading the hate, fueling angry debates and causing further divides in our society that we've been trying to mend since the end of apartheid. Now, I'm joined in studio by Media Monitoring Africa's William Bird. William, very good morning to you. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
That was a mouthful that I just put forward there, but week after week we have new incidences of hate speech, intolerance, out-and-out racism, and we seem to give these incidences pride of place in South Africa's media. Should we be doing this?
So the short answer is yes. I think that racism still is alive and well in South Africa. We've got a significant way to go to dealing with it, to making sure that we build the kind of society we envisaged in our constitution. That said, I think that we need to be a lot more careful about the way we do choose to expose these things, because as you do point out, you know, merely repeating hatred doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't help us address it, and it certainly doesn't help you combat it. You know, so one of the things that your previous guest was talking about, these hearings, these things are important because you need to look at mechanisms that are going to actively solve these things. So it's easy to vent and to spew anger and hatred and, you know, all sorts of issues at people that have racist memes and whatever. But the question is what are you going to do about those things? And critically, what do you do with those people in order to get them to see that what they're doing is actually so profoundly wrong and not acceptable in the South African society?
This whole scenario, as it plays out on social media now, often I hear, oh no, this is just the age of social media, we have to accept it. You're the expert in this space. Is it as simple as that? We must just accept this is the age of fake news and bigotry platforms?
And Donald Trump, yeah, look, so I think, and that's, you know, I said it in jest, but that's one of the key shifts that we've already seen in 2017. When you've got a president who talks about things with a level that fuels this idea that rationality doesn't apply, that science, evidence, all of these things don't matter, that poses significant challenges for us, you know. So you've got to say, well, how do we address racism? You need to make sure that you address it in a way that offers context, that provides evidence. So it's easy, for example, to just go down and say, well, because of this incident, all whites are racist. Yeah. Because of this incident, you know, it's clear that white monopoly capital runs, you know, determines everything. Neither of these things are tested as fact, and neither of these things are accurate, and none of them are true. And the moment you start operating off a basis where you don't have evidence, you don't have any reliable research to support your conclusions, you're going to have big problems.
Does this kind of thing still sell newspapers, and does it still sell column space, or is it a scenario that we have agendas in our media in South Africa, and these kind of incidences just so easily fit within those agendas?
So I think that some of these things are dovetailing into some of those agendas that we do see.
Yeah.
And I think it's a sad indictment of our media that those kinds of fractures are becoming more and more clear, where you've got some media that will choose particular lines around racism in order to support a particular political agenda, and others simply won't, you know. And I think, again, it calls into question the value and role of what the media are. And certainly as a public broadcaster, the SABC must make sure that it puts forward a diversity of views. But saying a diversity of views means that doesn't mean that just because a person's a fruitcake, you want them on air. You want people that actually are able to offer and support their claims with evidence and a rational basis for thinking. Those that can't, those that just come on and spew the same kind of nonsense, you know, doing that just fuels that kind of misinformation.
Now, this week, the Human Rights Commission, they're having specific hearings on racism on social media, and they're trying for us all to engage. Do you think that we're heading into a future where social media racists should be dealt with specifically by one organization, and rehabilitation and social cohesion programs should be the punishment, maybe, instead of the monetary ones that we see now?
I think it has to be on a scale, you know, depending on the grievance and on the alleged offence. You know, so someone that makes particularly overtly racist comments is going to need to be dealt with, as opposed to someone who might just suggest something that could be interpreted or is linked to a racist idea. You know, and you need different approaches with different people, because certainly a young person might tweet something without necessarily knowing that it's racist. Then you're not just going to want to go and say, oh, jail to you. You want to make sure that you have some kind of rehabilitation program. You want to make sure that you educate people about these things. So who deals with these things? Well, you know, it depends, because you don't always want the criminal justice system to intervene with absolutely everything, because for one thing, it's already overburdened. You rather want to be looking at how we can try and build the society that we want to live in. So it's fitting, actually, that we're doing this, and that just before our insert, we were talking about 100 years of Nelson Mandela. You know, these things, this is about someone who had a very clear and unambiguous position on racism. You know, Nelson Mandela didn't allow for that kind of an approach.
In conclusion, as society, as individuals, as good citizens, if you like, are we heading into an age of where we have to be activists on social media and kind of deal with these things in a more sort of, I don't know, activist kind of way? Not just police it, but also try and help to spread the tolerance message, if one can call it that.
Yeah, so look, if you want to, the thing with the internet is, if you want to find stories about complete fruitcakes, who believe in chickens coming and invading the earth, you will find a group of people like that on the internet.
Yeah, that is
true.
true.
The thing is, what value does that offer, right? And similarly, if you look for racists, you'll find them. So, as you said, the best way of combating bad content is through good content. And I don't think that we place nearly enough emphasis on producing good content that challenges racism, content that shows where these things are where these barriers are being broken down, where things work, where, you know, and every now and then you get TV programs that do that, where they show people's thinking that has shifted significantly from where we were 20 years ago.
Well, I can vouch for that. Thinking has shifted significantly in South Africa, but unfortunately at times it's the bigots and the racists that get pride of place, not just in our media, but it seems everywhere. But William, thanks for coming in today. Media Monitoring Africa's William Bird. Of course, we're talking about racism in social media, and later this week the Human Rights Commission will be dealing with that issue exactly. Yeah, I recorded those interviews a little bit earlier this week, because today, of course, the Human Rights Commission, they're gathering in Braamfontein here in Johannesburg, and they're having hearings on racism, the rise of racism in social media, and how they should address it. Now, of course, we asked the question on a poll to you, our viewers.
Does the media give too much airtime to social media racists with an S? But we had 147 of you voting, and 67%, 2/3 are saying yes. So that's an overwhelming majority that say, yes, the media is guilty in giving too much airtime to racists and bigots who claim pride of place. This tweet from Mohammed Koiteng, he says, yes, they get too much airtime, but at the same time, we shouldn't completely ignore the issue. A sobering view there from Mohammed Bantu comes and he says, media makes these people famous. It's unnecessary. And Unati tweets us and he says, yes, it does. And in most cases, they're fueling the fire of dividing South Africans. Monwabisi Mbonda says, I hate a racist person. All our blood are the same color. Yes, they give too much airtime to racists. And this is something that we are putting forward to the Human Rights Commission. Of course, their hearings and their discussions will be had over the next couple of days. Next week, we'll get a debrief, as it were, from the Human Rights Commission on the show, and they'll tell us what would be the outcomes and how do we take this forward as South Africa. I don't quite think any of us can get our heads around how we're going to deal with this. How do we allow individuals to cause all of us so much anguish and pain? Anyhow, time to talk a little bit of football, talk about anguish and pain. Paris heaped it on Barcelona last night in one of the most sensational results, I must say, in recent times in football, isn't it?
Absolutely. That 4-0 drubbing dished out to Barcelona by a scintillating and devastating Paris Saint-Germain was absolutely amazing. Inspired, of course, by Angel Di Maria, a former Real Madrid man. And
yes, former Manchester United man.
He did nothing at Manchester United that was worth talking about because he played well the first couple of matches, but it really was at Real Madrid that he showed his form. And last night, birthday boy,
yeah, on his birthday,
got himself a brace.
And played absolutely and put in one of the great performances. But the question I want to ask you, I watched a little bit of the match, and you know we always hear about Neymar and about Messi and about Luis Suarez, but Messi was nowhere last night. He looked completely off color. Are we seeing the beginning of the end for Leo Messi?
I don't think so. I think it's a one-off color match. With that said, it does happen. He's a footballer, and the entire Emerson trio, as a trio, were nowhere. They were actually non-existent. It was only basically their goalkeeper, Ter Stegen, as well as Neymar, who actually showed any fire in that particular match. But as a trio, Emerson didn't fire, and they were dismal last night. And they will remember this night. It's been called a Valentine's Day massacre in Paris, and this is not going to be forgotten anytime soon.
You have to say, though, the quality of the goals scored by PSG were just off the scale, and it kind of shows that, you know, the great players that they bought are now kind of finding their way under Unai Emery.
Up 100%. A couple of things. Edison Cavani, it was his birthday yesterday as well, so he got on a score sheet. And Unai Emery, people will remember him from his Sevilla days. He won back-to-back Europa League titles before taking over from Laurent Blanc. And the Qatari owners of PSG will be very happy that they made those purchases.
Oh, yeah, they did. And they're going to spend more money. Don't worry about that. Anyhow, great result. Great for the game. Nice to see new teams coming to the fore, of course. That's where we leave you for this hour. We'll be back at the top of the next hour. And yes, we'll be talking about a whole host of very interesting topics. So don't go away. Or go away and come join us at 10 o'clock because we'll have more, myself and Kendall.
Technology is all around us and some can't live without it.
There's also the problem of internet connectivity.
I was speaking to a robot.
It also makes a few governments panic and therefore they block the internet from time to time.
They just ban the internet, which is the source of my livelihood.
For African technology and social media news, join me, Phumelele Zondi, on Network every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
let you know that Vilakazi Street is the only street in the world to have housed 2 Nobel Prize winners. Vilakazi Street in Orlando West, Soweto, southwest of Johannesburg in the Republic of South Africa, has been home to Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Nelson Mandela's house was a modest family house from 1946 and still maintains those features. Archbishop Desmond Tutu still owns his house in Vilakazi Street since 1975 and often goes to stay there when visiting Johannesburg. Because of its popularity, the street has an influx of tourists. Restaurants with local cuisine have mushroomed around it, creating job opportunities for the locals and improving the lifestyle in the area. Orlando West High School in Vilakazi Street is known for its creative role during the famous 1976 uprising.
This Ford Cougar thing is becoming a hot potato for them, excuse the pun.
US carmaker Ford has finally admitted that a fault is causing some of its Ford Cougar SUVs to catch fire, and it also formally issued a recall in South Africa.
Ford needs to take accountability.
We'll work with our dealers and try to come up with a way that satisfies them.
The act of travel is an eye-opening activity that not only expands your view but is a major part of any country's economy. South Africa's spectacular scenery, friendly people and world-class infrastructure make it one of the most desired destinations in the world. Despite tough global economic conditions, the tourism sector is steadily growing. But the idea that one has to go far in order to explore is quickly changing as the sector encourages local exploration. South Africa's history has been one of confrontation, but is now also known as one of reconciliation. World-class sites have been established to commemorate the country's past and celebrate its newfound unity. An area of tourism that is often overlooked is the question of the arts and tourism. Although many cities have not taken advantage of this element to attract international visitors, the domestic artistic tourism is fast becoming a key drawcard for local exploration. A-grade exhibition centers are creating modern spaces to showcase what makes up the African expression. A good dose of creative capital is playing a major role as entrepreneurs create new and exciting ways to sell their products, thus creating new vibrant local spaces that are changing the face of our communities. South Africa has earmarked tourism as a key sector with excellent potential for growth, and a vast amount is being poured into changing the face of our spaces, making them vibrant, urban, and exciting.
Hello again, everybody. Yes, it's just gone 10 a.m. Central African time. I'm with Kendall Makamati with you for the next hour on the Newsroom show. Of course, Kendall, our focus for the first little bit, we have a special feature on gangs in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth. And were you shocked that they put bullets on school children's desks and tell them to join the gang or die?
Sounds like something out of a terrible movie that you don't want your children to watch, but it's extremely disturbing stuff.
That's why we asked you the question, how do we combat gangsterism in our schools? And it's something that you guys are very worried about because we're seeing dozens and dozens of tweets that you are sending us about this. It's something that affects you and me. All our children are exposed to this kind of thing in school. So let's have a look at what you guys are tweeting us. What are the concerns that you guys are raising? Barry Martin.
There are no places for gangsters in our schools except learners. Ban these gangsters and place them under a terrorism act.
Tough action. Sipo says some of the things in our country are being allowed while the Bible is against it. It all starts at home, sir, he says.
Sipo goes on to say, in this country, everything is legalized. Even the wrong ones are being accepted. That's why there will be disgusting things.
Bantu comes in. He says the Department of Education in PE and the Eastern Cape are failing schools with this gangsterism issue. Yes, the people in the northern areas, they have been up in arms because of it.
Simpo has been quite busy talking to us this morning, saying sometimes it's the evil spirit that drives them into horror things. Only God can change a person's mind.
Sipo, is it the evil spirit or is it the greed, the hunger for wanting things that you don't need? That's what sometimes drives that kind of greed, and it's greed that you cannot feed.
No, absolutely, you cannot feed it. It will not stop until something external is done.
Of course, a little bit later today, we'll talk to the credit ombudsman about, well, couples and, you know, how people manage their relationships on financial kind of level after 11. But we've been putting up this poll because we want to put it to the credit ombudsman what you guys are saying. So, should you know your future spouse's financial habits, especially if you plan to marry without a prenup? So we're asking you, should you check your partner's credit record before marriage, Ken?
Interesting enough, of the 154 votes that have come in so far, 71% of our viewers are saying, yes, you should check your partner's credit record before marriage, whereas 29% say, no, not necessary.
A couple of tweets on it. Petrus Moletsani, he says, no, I don't check material-wise, but spiritual-wise, because it's spiritual being of a person. Yes, Petrus, I did the same. It cost me money, man.
Petrus carries on to say, marry someone of what he or she has is corruption or crime.
Yes, it's corruption to marry somebody for their money or what they have. Interesting take on it. Keep tweeting us because we're going to put it to the credit ombudsman at 11 o'clock today, and he's going to give us views on what you should and shouldn't do, and there'll be interesting stuff, news you can use. That's what it's going to be at 11 o'clock when Elvis comes back. But of course, that's where we are right now. Let's get into our work. We've got a lot of news going on all around South Africa and the world. Here are your headlines. The health ministers confirmed that 7 of the 27 NGOs in Gauteng, where 94 mentally ill patients died last year, have been shut down. The South African Weather Service forecasts localized flooding in some areas of Limpopo and Mpumalanga as from tomorrow. And the South African Human Rights Commission's 2-day national hearing on racism in social media kicks off today in Braamfontein, in Johannesburg. That's the top stories, but let's have a look at what's happening in the world of sport. Hi, Kendall.
Evan, thank you very much. Very interesting discussion we had just now about that PSG Barca match. It was fascinating stuff. Great to see great football on a night when at home we were denied great football because of pitches. But I get ahead of myself. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in terms of the sports today. Chipa United denying Mamelodi Sundowns a top 3 spot, holding them to a 1-0 draw at a waterlogged Sisa Dukweshe Stadium in Mdantsane.
Tonight we play percentage football because it's like rugby. We can't play on the ground.
Di Maria can hit them, as we know, with his left foot, just like that.
A shock result in Paris' birthday boy Angel Di Maria puts on a sizzling display, bagging a brace as PSG destroy a confused and lackluster Barcelona by 4-0.
And the Academy have chosen Nico Rosberg.
And on a night of surprises, retired Formula One driver Nico Rosberg beats world record holder and Olympic gold medalist Wade van Niekerk to the glorious Breakthrough of the Year award. All this and more I've got for you later on the Sports Bulletin, around about 10:40 or so. But do stay with us because Evan has got the news.
Yeah, thanks, Kendall. He'll be back with us at about 10:40, 10:45 to give us a complete update, some interesting sports stories. But this is our top news story right now. 7 of the 27 NGOs in Gauteng, where 94 mentally ill patients died last year, have been shut down, and the rest will be shut down in due course. This was announced by Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi and newly appointed Gauteng Health MEC Gwen Ramokopa at a media briefing in Pretoria. The minister also disclosed that the bodies of 19 of the patients are yet to be claimed. The patients died after they were moved from the Life Sedimeni healthcare centres to these NGOs.
The South African Police Services has started this work as early as September 2016 with forensic investigations and the processes to help identify some of the bodies not yet claimed by relatives. At the moment, I'm aware that they are busy with identification and postmortems on at least 19 bodies.
There is a process of the social workers and the Department of Social Development, and in that healing session, there will still be all these experts as well to support the families and to ensure that the families, are fully involved.
The South African Weather Service has forecast localized flooding around the Kruger National Park as well as the Mpumalanga Lowveld. Some areas in Limpopo have also been warned of the floods as Tropical Storm Dineo is expected to reach South Africa by tomorrow. The storm is currently classified as severe and it's over the Mozambican Channel. It's likely to intensify into an intense tropical cyclone by as early as this afternoon. Dineo is expected to make landfall near Inhambane in southern Mozambique later today. It's likely to pack winds of up to 166 kilometers per hour. Forecasters say people living in these areas that will be affected should take precautions. A mining investment worth 650 million rand has been pumped into the economy of the Northern Cape. UK-registered company Interalloys Trading Limited is partnered with a local company, Onicaster, in a new mining venture. The two companies are said to revive operations at Griquastad's Rooinecker iron ore mine, which shut down in 1975.
40 years ago, this disused mine was a hive of activity. The decline in commodity prices and other challenges have since led to the mine shutting down. But this is all in the past. Amongst planned developments, the construction of a railway line set to link all emerging mining operations with those controlled by the industry giants.
As you would know, the majors have all the lines basically to themselves, and us as emerging miners, we basically get into contracts with them and they assist us to move our product through their back loading facilities onto rail.
For the depressed town of Griquastad, this economic injection will change the lives of the locals.
We didn't do anything. Look at the CPS grants, funds of the old people, the children people. So if this mine can start here in Griquastad, it will be a big change.
For most of the youth, we are unemployed and we don't have nothing else to do. So it will be a good thing if the mine can come and open so that everyone who needs this job, and there's an opportunity for each of us.
The mine is expected to reopen in April this year. Luvolwetu Kavata, SABC News, Griquastad in the Northern Cape.
Well, now we'll go to a story that's developing as we speak. Management of the Tshwane University of Technology says it will engage various stakeholders today in an effort to establish the cause of a violent students' protest which started last night. The protest has prompted the closure of the university's main campus in Pretoria West. Now, to talk to us a little bit more about the campus closure, we are joined on the line by TUT spokesperson Villa de Reiter. Very good morning to you, Villa. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning to you.
Villa, just give us a quick update. What's the situation at TUT right now?
The Tshwane University of Technology Pretoria West campus currently closed. And this executive decision was taken early this morning after intermittent protest action at campus. We have been monitoring the situation and in the interest of the safety of staff and students, it was decided to close the Pretoria campus. And it's important to note that it's only the Pretoria campus that is affected. What led to the protest action is not quite clear, and we will investigate the matter. We will engage with student leaders to get to the bottom of exactly what is going on there.
Is the campus in Pretoria West the only one that's affected now?
Currently, that is the only campus that is affected. All activities at the other campuses are continuing as scheduled. There's a couple of meetings scheduled this morning, and we will issue a statement once we have more information and we have made a decision on what's going to happen further. I would like to urge parents and students to keep an eye on TUT's website on www.tut.ac.za. We will post relevant and new information there. And we will also communicate with students via the TUT for Life mailboxes.
Villa, you're still not aware what the unhappiness is about and what the protests are for?
No, that will be determined through the engagement of the student leaders today.
Well, Villa, thank you very much for that update. That's the spokesperson for the Tshwane University of Technology, Villa de Ruyter, talking to us about, well, violent protest action that erupted at TUT's Pretoria West campus and the closure thereof. They'll give us another update after, of course, they've now met with student leaders to find out what the protest was for. Now we move on. 2 men will appear in court today in connection with the murder of Soweto restaurant manager Kwesi Hudson. Gauteng police made the arrest yesterday. The 60-year-old manager of the popular Soweto restaurant Sakumzi was shot dead during an apparent armed robbery. The suspect, aged 23 and 25, will appear at the Orlando Magistrates Court on charges of murder, armed robbery and the possession of an unlicensed firearm. Police also seized the vehicle believed to have been used in the robbery. They are looking for at least 2 more suspects, we're informed. The South African Human Rights Commission will today start the 2-day hosting of the national hearings on racism and social media in Braamfontein, here in Johannesburg. The Commission says, despite the significant achievements over the past 22 years of democracy, deep inequalities and unfair discrimination remain commonplace. It says the majority of complaints received by the Commission relate to discrimination based on race. During the past financial year, it received more than 500 race-related complaints. The Commission says the advent of social media has further complicated the country's attempt to address discrimination. Meanwhile, comedians, satirists and political commentators need not worry about being gagged. That's the assurance from the Deputy Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, John Jeffrey. He was addressing a roundtable discussion on the prevention and combating of hate crimes and hate speech bill.
The Deputy Minister of Justice wants to know why his department shouldn't criminalize hate speech. This in a country where the majority of black people are often publicly referred to as either monkeys or the K-word. According to Jeffrey, it is the people behind such vile comments that the bill will target. He says comedians, satirists and ordinary law-abiding South Africans need not be concerned.
Obviously, we can't be too oversensitive about people's dignity, and you know, people have to accept that you can get told things you don't like. The question is that abuse of a person because of their group they belong to, whether it's religious, whether it's gender, you know, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity, is something we need to look very carefully at.
Matthew Clayton from the Hate Crimes Working Group disagrees. He says the bill as it stands currently infringes on citizens' rights to freedom of speech.
The way that it's currently written goes beyond what we understand as hate speech in this country and beyond incitement to violence, and goes much broader to encompass insults, and the way that it's written at the moment is a very broad way and could potentially limit freedom of expression. I think a lot of people are concerned about that.
The discussions were organized by the Catholic Parliamentary Liaison Office.
I think there was clarity. I mean, I kept hearing people saying, thank you, that makes sense. I kept hearing people saying, yes, but, and both of those are ways of providing clarity. So I think it more than adequately assisted in the process.
The bill is currently before Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development, which recently wrapped up public hearings on it. Lucanio Khalada, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, that is the news for now, of course, today. We're looking intensely at the national hearings into racism on social media.
Now, a lot of what is currently trending on social media and making big stories in the news often lands up in the world of arts and performance, whether it be in local film, in theatre, production, or even a new novel. It seems that our society thrives on discussing the very topics that cause the divide between races and religious groups. But the question that arises whether we should be having these tough and often uncomfortable conversations in order to unite us as a nation. Now, to tell us more about this, joining us here in studio is Janine Raftopoulos. She is the communication manager, as well as the legal officer, Luana Ncheke. They are both from the Film and Publication Board. A very good morning to you, ladies.
Good morning.
Janine, let's start off with you, and let's talk about this rise in social media, that we've seen the rise in racist rants that we've seen over the past couple of years or so. Do we, as a nation, maybe perhaps go overboard with that type of thing?
I think the social media space, like any other space anywhere in the world, is indicative of what is brewing in that space in society. From a South African perspective, because of our past, we are seeing more and more that more conversations are being had online that relate to either hate speech or hate crimes, for example. And from a film and publication perspective, because we have an online monitoring team, we are seeing and receiving more complaints than we did in previous years from the public.
Luana, from your perspective, has there been an increase in these type of incidences?
There certainly has, and as Janine has been saying, it's really because of the tool itself spreading. You have more people that actually have devices, more people being active on social media. So it's actually people having the opportunity to voice their concerns, to propagate, as opposed to us seeing an increase per se. Because now more people they have ease of access to social media tools and communication. So that's actually been the main reason that we've seen the rise of these kind of hate speech posts that we've seen, without making any provision for artistic merit or freedom of expression, as it were, matters of public interest. And that is really where the tension currently is. Because whilst you can say that one airing their views may constitute hate speech, but what do we do when those very views are in the public interest? How do we then balance the two interests? How do we then balance issues of hate speech vis-a-vis artistic merit, things of dramatic or educational merit, which is what we as the Film and Publication Board do. So we're hoping to work much closely with the Department of Justice through this process of promulgating the hate speech bill to ensure that at the end of the day, the interests are well balanced. Because as it currently stands, it's very one-sided, and it makes content difficult to regulate from the FPB point of view. If we give it legal status by giving it an age rating, and yet on the other hand, the very same producer or distributor is then liable of hate speech. So those are the tensions that we're trying to remedy currently. But it certainly is a step in the right direction. It is an effort. It is something that we do need. But we'll see how it progresses, the bill that is with the public comments that have been submitted to date.
Ladies, thank you so much for coming in and joining us.
Thank you.
That was Janine Raftopoulos. She is the communications manager from the Film Publications Board, as well as the legal officer, Luana Ncheke, joining us here.
A meteorite hit the Earth 2 million years ago, creating an enormous impact of crater, about 10 kilometers in diameter near Vredefort in the Free State, 100 kilometers southwest of Johannesburg, now known as the Vredefort Dome, a South African World Heritage Site. The meteorite is said to have been larger than Table Mountain and caused a 1,000 megaton blast of energy. The impact would have heated about 70 cubic kilometers of rock and have increased the Earth's oxygen levels to a degree that made the development of multicellular life possible. The world has about 130 crater structures of possible impact origin. The Vredefort Dome is the largest in the world, followed by Sudbury Crater in Canada and the Chicxulub Crater in Mexico.
Welcome back. Good morning. If you've just joined us, you're watching Newsroom here on SABC News. Now, female genital mutilation comprises all procedures involving partial or the total removal of the female external genitalia or other injuries to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. The World Health Organization estimates that 200 million girls worldwide have undergone female genital mutilation. In Kenya, at least 21% of girls have undergone FGM despite it being against the law. Names of the victims have been changed and their faces blocked out to protect their identity in this insert.
A second chance at life, a chance to have an education, to play with age mates and to simply be a child. Theirs is a story of courage, one of going against their culture despite the consequences. They are following in the footsteps of Priscilla Nangurai, a retired teacher who broke with tradition more than 30 years ago and began rescuing girls running away from home to escape female genital mutilation, FGM. In 2007, Nangurai finally put away the chalk for what she hoped would be a quiet retirement. That was not to be. Young Maasai girls started streaming into her home, seeking shelter from parents determined to have them cut and married off.
Right now I have 62 girls here, and I have 12 girls at secondary level. The ones at secondary level have never gone back. So most of them came when they were in class 3, like 10, 11 years, running from FGM then.
15-year-old Nancy Naserian is in her final year of primary school at the rescue center, which now doubles up as a school and a home. She remembers the night her father broke the news of her impending initiation.
How old were you then? I was like 9 years old that time.
And your dad wanted to marry you off when you were 9?
Yes, to even an old man, even I didn't see him.
Of the rotation of the
Many like Naserian have never returned home.
When we go through reconciliation, you see the fathers, even the mothers crying. Oh, we repent, we are sorry, we want our girl back. But she goes back and they continue from where they left. Because sometimes they may have received the dowry. So, and the man is still waiting.
Once a girl is cut, she's seen as ready for marriage. The cut is performed to girls as young as 8. The effect of the cut lasts forever.
A lot of our girls who get married early give birth to still births.
Nangurai may be a savior of sorts. Yet more than 30 years since she began the crusade to eliminate FGM and early child marriages, the battle is far from won.
Let me tell you, for 25 years, I did not talk about FGM myself. I didn't. All I wanted was to give this girl an education, whether she was circumcised or not. I knew how deep it was. I knew the church elders were doing it. I knew even professors from our community, from the Kisi community, from the Meru, I knew they were doing it. Yeah. One time there was a minister of education, and he did it to his children.
Still, she trudges on with the help of community and non-government organizations like Plan International.
with sensitization, getting to talk to them, the women, the men, the Morans, they now are getting to understand why we are saying no to FGM and even no to child marriage.
The whole of last year I was asking myself, are we fighting a losing battle?
What do you think? Are you fighting a losing battle?
No, it will take time, but it will come to an end.
To date, more than 800 girls have passed through her hands. Many are now respected women in society. The United Nations has set 2030 as a target year to end child marriages and female genital mutilation. Nana Rescue Center is on the path to achieving that dream, at least for the Maasai community. Sarah Kimani, SABC News in Kajiado, Kenya.
Now, if current trends continue, 15 million additional girls between the ages of 15 and 19 will be subjected to this practice by 2030. We are now joined by Mercy Chege from Plan International in Kenya, an independent development and humanitarian organization that advances children's rights and equality for girls. Mercy, a very good morning to you and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Mercy, give us an idea. How rife is this practice and why is female genital mutilation still being practiced?
Especially in Kajiado, like the clip that you have just seen, and also in some parts of northeastern as well as eastern province of Kenya, female genital mutilation is actually over 90%. And the reason why probably we still have FGM is because it's not just a practice, but it is a way of life. It is for most of the communities that practice FGM, for them, it is a rite of passage from childhood to adulthood. And therefore, they find it very difficult to be able to abandon that practice for as long as the stakeholders and even the governments that are discouraging FGM have not come up with a solution. So if we don't get the opportunity to tell our girls what womanhood is all about when they are 15 or when they are 16 years old, and what else can we do? Which other forum apart from during the rite of passage can we tell them that? So I think that is why for most communities, they hold on to FGM, even though it is such an outdated practice and it also has very dire side effects on the girls.
I want you to tell us a little bit about the after effects that it has on young women specifically, but also later on in life as these young women become women in their own right.
One of the obvious effects of FGM is that girls do not get to bloom. They don't get to develop fully because immediately after they go through the FGM, the message that they are given is that they are old enough to become mothers. They are old enough to become wives. So that message is obviously not in their best interest because they will drop out of school because they have gone through FGM and now they are women. They will get married most of the time to men who are much, much older than them. And sometimes they are even second or third wives. And then after that, they'll get babies. And that is the end of their education. At teenage, they are not old enough to become women and they're not old to become mothers, but that is something that they do not know. They only get to realize that it was not the best decision when it is too late. They have a number of children to take care of. They have an old husband who is ailing and they have to take care of that. And they missed out on the opportunity to go to school. So there is the effect on their education, there is the effect on their development, and of course, there is the violation of their rights as children. They don't get to enjoy their childhood. So I think those are just the three of the most basic. And of course, we cannot forget that perpetuating the cycle of poverty. For as long as the women are not able to get an education, they will not educate their children. So for us, we see that as very serious because we do not have an opportunity to break the cycle of poverty in some of these communities because their women do not get an opportunity to go to school.
Now, these are strong cultural beliefs, of course. How do we change this belief system?
Okay, at Plan International, we have a number of interventions, like my colleague Faith Mpoke has said in the previous video, and we are trying to do it in a very systematic way. One of them is that we are working with communities and we are sensitizing them on the effects of FGM and why probably we should, together with those communities, look for a solution and look for a forum where the girls can still get the advice that they get about being adults without interrupting their studies and without interrupting their childhood. So we are sensitizing the communities, we are educating them on the effects of FGM. So that is one. Then the second thing we are doing is that we are providing education opportunities for girls that have been rescued from FGM or girls who are running away from FGM. I think the importance of this is that when the women in the Maasai community, like the ones that we have just seen, and also in northeastern and some parts of eastern Kenya, if they get an opportunity to stay in school for continuous 18 years, then by then they will have gone through their secondary school education and they can make informed choices. They will be above 18 years and they will decide whether or not they still want to go through FGM. The other thing we are doing is that for those girls who are already married at teenage and they cannot go back to school for various reasons, we are working with them to build their economic skills, their financial literacy, so that they can have a source of income and become better people instead of just waiting for their husbands to provide for them. And of course, we are also working with families in getting household economic strengthening. We want the families to stop selling their girls, so to speak, because they don't have the money. So we are trying to make sure that families have a source of income other than waiting for dowry, so that the girls are safe and they can be able to stay in school for at least 18 years. And the other thing that we are doing is that we are trying to influence policy. We want to make sure that the laws that are there, because Kenya has very good laws in child protection, and also there is an anti-FGM law. So we want to make sure that this law is implemented. So we are working with the law enforcement officers just to make sure that they understand the law. So our legal officers do the education, the legal education.
Mercy, thank you very much.
We are also working with the communities to educate them on the laws against.
Well, we're just losing the connectivity there, it seems. Apologies for that, but I think we got the gist of the discussion that's in place. Of course, female genital mutilation still being practiced today. 200 million women affected worldwide, another 15 million expected to be affected by the year 2030 on the African continent and in the Middle East. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll get a sports update with Kendall Makamate. Okay, we're not going to take a break, it seems. Well, let's have a look at the poll that we've been running, because it's an interesting one. We've got the Credit Ombudsman coming in today. The Credit Ombudsman will be with us at 11 o'clock. And the Credit Ombudsman will be talking to us about, well, should you check your partner's credit record before marriage? That's a question that we've put to you, our viewers. 161 of you voted in this poll. 70% say, yes, you should check their credit record. My question to you is, will you tell them that you checked them out, that you've done this? Now, you guys are also tweeting us on this question. Let's just have a look. Let's have a look at what you guys are tweeting us with regards to this. Do you check? Shafana Zule Showe says, yeah, boy, yes, I check everything. In 2014, I arranged to marry my lovely wife. He says, talking about the credit record. Then Temba Shabangu says, no, why should you? Sipo comes in, he says, oh yes, I can do a checkup before getting married. See, everybody has secrets and issues. Then Lachasa says, yes, you should check if she's blacklisted or not. She might fail to fulfill your marriage needs as well because she's a bad payer. Well, that's what we've been asking you with regards to our question of the day. Of course, keep on tweeting us. We've also asked you about gangsterism in schools? How do we combat this kind of thing? That's the question we've got on screen for you. So keep interacting with that question. We'll run that package again after 11 o'clock. It's an interesting one. Kenda Mahamati has finally joined us. He's here and ready to give us a sports update. Let's go over there.
Thank you very much, Evan. Yes, it is time for sports, and what a way to start the sports than with an absolute premiership match. Well, defending champions Mamelodi Sundowns were held by Chippa United in a match played on a waterlogged surface in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape last night. Defender Wayne Arendse played both hero and villain in the match as he scored for the Brazilians, but then gave away a penalty at the other end as the match finished 1-1. Sundowns remain fifth on the log, and Chippa United have replaced Maritzburg United in the top 8.
A lot was expected from Sundowns after walloping Orlando Pirates 6-0 on Saturday in Pretoria. But Pito Musimane made wholesome changes to the team that started against Pirates, as he has one eye on the Super Cup against TP Mazembe on Saturday. Wayne Arendse announced his return from suspension with a composed finish from Teko Mutise's free kick.
Shot to the back post, goal! Wayne Arendse punishes a defensive lap by Chippa United.
Sundowns' lead, however, didn't last long as midfielder Buyani Sali was fouled by Arendse inside the penalty area. And Rulani Manzini stepped up and grabbed the equalizer for the home team.
Excellent goal from Manzini. Strikes it firmly down the middle. And we have the equalizer here.
The Chili Boys nearly stole all 3 points at the death, but Wayne Sunderlands produced a fine save to deny Linda Shiba.
The biggest thing I appreciate here is the atmosphere here, electrifying, and unfortunately the pitch did not match that. If the pitch matched the quality of the players that were on the field, then we would have been talking something different probably. It's going to be difficult because we have to drive to Bloemfontein, and the field was very heavy today, so we have to be very cautious as to what we do in preparation for the match.
Under the circumstances, we will take a point because you can't play football. We play that one, you know which one, up in the air. That's not football. It's not good for Chippa. It's not good for Sundowns. We don't play percentage football. But tonight we play in percentage football because it's like rugby. We can't play on the ground.
There will be 3 league matches this evening. Dejected Orlando Pirates will host the high-flying Bidvest Vets at the Orlando Stadium. Third place, the SuperSports United will travel to Orkney to take on Free State Stars, who are amongst the bottom 3 on the log. And the Baroka will face Platinum Stars at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. All 3 matches will kick off at 7:30 p.m. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
Well, as you know, it's midweek time, so we've got a whole lot more action in the PSL midweek. We've got matches on tonight. So just a quick reminder, though, of that result, which nobody really wanted, but hey, it happened. It was a 1-0. Chippa United won against Mamelodi Sundowns at Susa Dukashi Stadium. Tonight, we've got quite a few other matches on. We've got Bidvest Vets. They visit Orlando Pirates at Orlando Stadium. 7:30 p.m. is kickoff time. Let's hope that this one goes through without any issues. And Free State Stars, they play SuperSport United at the James Motlanthe Stadium. Same time at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium will be the match between Baroka FC and Platinum Stars. Once again, those matches kicking off at 7:30 p.m. Now, staying with football and moving on to a little further afield. It's being called a Valentine's Day massacre. Last night, a shock result was achieved in Paris as birthday boy Angel Di Maria put on a sizzling display, bagging a brace as PSG destroyed a confused and lackluster Barcelona by 4-0 in the UEFA Champions League. Now, PSG, they were eliminated by the Catalans in the Champions League quarterfinals in 2013 and 2015. They were the more aggressive side of the Parc des Princes and have put themselves in a commanding position ahead of the March 8th second leg at the Camp Nou. Now, the Argentinians scored in each half with Germany's midfielder Julian Drexler and Uruguay striker Edinson Cavani also finding the net, with the French champions tore apart the disorganized Barca side, who have it all to do in the return. Now, I'll tell you what, Di Maria scored again in the second half, and with this beautiful curler from just outside the area. And then Edinson Cavani wrapped it all up in the 71st minute to say goodbye to Barcelona. Now, Benfica made Borussia Dortmund pay for missing a host of chances as the Portuguese side snatched a 1-0 win in the Champions League last 16 first leg, thanks to forward Kostas Mitroglou's 13th goal in his last 13 games. Now, there you have it. Now, American athlete Usain Bolt and gymnast Simone Biles, they took the top accolades at the Laureate Sports Awards in Monaco last night. Olympic gold medalist Bolt and Biles were named Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year, respectively, following their achievements in Rio de Janeiro last year.
Bolt bagged 3 gold medals at the 2016 Rio Games in August, in the 100 meters, 200 meters and 4x100 meters relay. Regarded as the greatest athlete of all time, he received his 4th Laureate Award to equal the record of tennis legends Roger Federer and Serena Williams.
One of my mottos is that, anything is possible. Don't think limits, and I feel that I've proven that throughout the years. I never thought I would be this great at what I've done, but I want to say to the young kids growing up, just live your dream, work hard, stay focused, and just be strong, and just keep on pushing, and it will come true.
Biles was rewarded for her 4 gold medals in Rio, in the team, all-round vault and floor exercise events. South African-based upliftment project Waves for Change received the Sport for Good Award. Waves for Change uses surfing to address the psychological challenges for children growing up in the townships of South Africa.
About 6 years ago, we came to you guys with a concept for surf therapy. We wanted to work in post-conflict communities, in violent communities, and find a new way to help young people deal with stress. You believed in us, you funded us, you connected us to universities, and now we're here. And our program is reaching almost 1,000 people around the world, in South Africa, in Liberia, and we're here because you guys believed in us, and I would like to say thank you very much.
Formula One winner Nico Rosberg of Germany beat South Africa's Wade van Niekerk in the Breakthrough of the Year category. Rosberg, however, quit the sport in December, 5 days after being crowned world champion. American swimmer Michael Phelps won the Comeback of the Year award. Phelps won his 23rd Olympic gold medal in Rio. The Chicago Cubs was named Team of the Year, while Leicester City won the Spirit of Sport award for their remarkable Premier League win. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
What a night. A couple of things that I want to chat to you about. Firstly, Usain Bolt is Jamaican, not American. They would be so happy to have him on their side, wouldn't they? And what a pity that Wade van Niekerk lost out to Nico Rosberg, who won and then retired. And what did he do? Wade van Niekerk broke the longest-standing men's sprint record by 1700ths of a second. Anyway, that's just my opinion. Now, the South African cricket team's tour of New Zealand is off to a washed-out start. The Proteas warm-up match against the New Zealand 11 in Auckland was abandoned without a single ball being bowled due to persistent rain on Tuesday. The Proteas are set to play a one-off T20 International on Friday, and then the 5-match ODI series starts on Sunday. Here's what Faf du Plessis had to say.
Well, we've been playing really good cricket, even away from home as well. Obviously, we've got a nice thing going at home where we've won, I think, 12 on the row, 12 on the bounce. And it's important when you come to a place like New Zealand. Obviously, they're a quality one-day team with a really good record at home as well. So you need all the, I suppose, confidence and momentum on your side. Got some good memories here from last time as in the one-day series that we beat New Zealand. So obviously nice experienced side that we've got again here in New Zealand. But most recently is the New Zealand World Cup game that we played against New Zealand here in Eden Park, which was a great game. So it will be mixed feelings getting back there. I think honestly something like that you'll always carry it with you. As a team we've definitely put it behind us, but the emotions of that day will always be with us, and I think that's not a bad thing. It was although we were on the wrong side of winning the game, it was a great day of cricket, and it's something that will always be with us. New Zealand is a almost a perfect. I mean, in New Zealand and England is probably the two places that you want to be playing ahead of a Champions Trophy. From a conditions-wise perspective, but also the opposition. New Zealand has got a great energy in their team, and they're very competitive, especially in the fielding department. So you always feel their presence, and that's something, that pressure and that presence, that you almost want to try and practice as much as possible before you get to a big tournament. Look, I think as long as it's relevant, it can be more. For me, obviously, a one game T20 feels like it is possibly not as much relevance as it should be. I think if you have a proper series where it's a 3-match series, then it feels a little bit more important. But I understand that the scheduling now is obviously a lot around the IPL and the Champions Trophy, so now it's just to try and squeeze everything in. This is a very busy tour for us. We were hoping for some time off to see the beautiful country, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of time for that. But that's obviously, from a cricket perspective, that's good because you're playing a lot of cricket. Obviously, they've got really good two bowlers in Tim Southee and Bolt. If you play them well, I think you'll put on good scores. And then obviously someone like Kane Williamson is always a consistent performer in their team. So if you can take, I think if you can put pressure on their big players, just to name those three guys, you put yourself in positions to try and win games. But I know that they've got lots of other young guys who's got really good talent. And then also the thing that stands out for me from playing New Zealand especially, is their fielding. They're a similar team like us. We try and pride ourselves in the field, and they make it a lot harder for you to score those easy singles and easy twos. So I think a few of those things, if you can work on them, we as a team will be okay. I think our batting lineup, I think it's pretty self-explanatory that if you look at our top 5 or top 6, it's a well-established top 6 that's scored plenty of runs for a long period of time. And in our bowling department, we've got I suppose not so experienced, but a young and vibrant bowling attack. And then obviously our spinner is #1 in the world in T20 and one days now. He's in really good form, so it's nice that we've got him on our side.
Well, you know what? I can't wait to see that match, those matches in action. I want to see the boys up in action against New Zealand. We owe them a thing or two. Phil, you know what? I'm looking forward to those matches in New Zealand. I know that you've been keeping an eye on it as well.
Yeah, those matches, I don't know. We actually have a very unfortunate reputation of having a little bit of a choking kind of a problem going on there. But I don't know. I think the form that the guys are in now is really going to pay off. I think that they can't not win.
All right, now I'm going to leave you to it, and time for the weather.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot. Let's take a look at what's going on in terms of the weather. Well, we're going to start off, first of all, by taking a look at something very serious and something that needs to be taken very seriously indeed. This is Tropical Storm Dineo. This is expected to grow into a fully fledged tropical cyclone by early this evening. So this is very, very serious indeed. The South African Weather Service is saying that we're expecting flooding in the southern parts of Mozambique. There you can see this is a 24-hour satellite loop over the last 24 hours. Just watch it develop so quickly there, and it's absolutely taking in strength from the warm waters just between Madagascar and Mozambique. So we'll get a lot more information about that from Tieti Munare in the next hour. But first of all, let's take a look at this low pressure system here. It is affecting the weather along that coastal area there. Showers and thunder showers coming in towards Zambia, Angola as well, linking up with low pressure systems just in the northern parts of Angola. And of course in South Africa we're expecting showers and thunder showers to continue for today, most of which through the central interior as well as the eastern regions of the country. By tomorrow, that low pressure system still drawing in a little bit of moisture there, but higher pressure systems are just mitigating those effects in that eastern interior of South Africa. We are going to see this low pressure system, of course, encroaching into the interior starting from tomorrow. So it's really going to bring in those heavy rainfalls towards that southern part of Mozambique and towards the eastern part of South Africa, those eastern border regions around the Kruger Park, and so please do be aware of that. Northern KZN also expecting some of that starting in the next few days. So taking a look in a little bit more detail, Cape Town, well, it's going to be clear here. We're going to see a clear day in Springbok as well. So that western coastline seeing a lot of sunshine and some very warm temperatures, with Uppington at 39 degrees in the western interior there. Showers forecast for Harare there, 27 degrees, and of course Maputo expecting rainfall for a day. That low pressure system and that tropical storm really is not going to do it any good. Maputo expecting heavy rainfall into the days to come. A little bit further north, we're still expecting warm temperatures, generally hanging around the 30-degree mark, slightly warmer along that western interior there. Bangui's at 38, so a lot warmer there. But Nairobi there, 27 degrees, a little bit cooler, and it's going to be another dry one in Nairobi, in Mogadishu, and of course in Addis Ababa, 23 degrees. Showers forecast for today in some of these areas. We are going to see isolated showers over the southern coastlines of West Africa, and some low pressure systems just drawing a little bit of rainfall up north there, but those showers are very isolated, and some of these areas that, even though they may fall within the blue, are not going to receive rainfall for today. Just some passing showers there. By tomorrow, we're going to see similar conditions, a little band of rainfall moving through Algeria's interior for tomorrow. Southern coastlines of West Africa, again expecting isolated showers. And of course, this is where we're going to leave your weather for now. Stay tuned though with SABC News.
The world has become digital, and we need to find new ways to solve current problems.
You're capturing your geo-coordinate. So if you stay in a shack, you still have an address because we know where you are.
Some are using it to tell new African narratives.
Our first priority is catering to our fans. We have to go where they are, and they're online.
That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Ford Cougar thing is becoming a hot potato for them, excuse the pun.
US car maker Ford has finally admitted that a fault is causing some of its Ford Cougar SUVs to catch fire, and it also formally issued a recall in South Africa.
Ford needs to take accountability.
We'll work with our dealers and try to come up with a way that satisfies them.
Came up with this really cool concept that we both absolutely loved, and it was tennis inspired, sports likes if you will, but still really edgy, and of course still staying true to who she is as a designer, which I felt was very important.
I am allowing them. If you do not keep your promise, you will never see my children again.
Fiona is a talented chess player. If it wasn't for her community that supported her, she would not have been where she is today. And so it takes a village.
I love working with children. They give you so much joy, and watching them achieve what we ask them to do is really heartening.
Children, Miss Hannigan is gone for good.
Mac Miller, the 24-year-old new school hip-hop international rapper, was shocked when he realized the big following he has in Mzansi.
For a 1-hour dose of entertainment, stay tuned on Trends every Saturday at 12.
Welcome back to the final hour here on the Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Kendall Mahamati.
And we'll be with you until 12 o'clock. Now, yesterday, Kendall, we celebrated love all over the world. And
yes,
today?
Today it's a story of a different kind.
Yeah,
a little more disturbing.
Violence.
Absolutely.
In schools, of all places. Gangs in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth seems to have turned their attention on school learners to join, pay the protection fee, or die. They use a little bullet that they put on the child's table, and that is the warning.
That's shocking.
Unbelievable. That's why we ask you this question. How do you or we combat gangsterism in our schools? That's the question. Let's take a look at some of your tweets and what you have to say about that.
Oh, here we go. We've got Ronald Duki saying, gangsters in schools are like terrorists in our country or hood. Absolutely no, 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 no.
And I said, no, no, no. African Kid says, more focus is put on the content. Schools ignore other talents. Hence, more e-mural activities might help. That mural that we've seen in Port Elizabeth earlier, where they put up that mural that says no more violence and peace in our community.
Yes, sir. And Bantu says, in my days, we were searched at the gate. Maybe surprise police visits twice a month to keep everyone on their toes. That is one way of trying to deal with it.
That's one way. I would even suggest once a week, for that matter. Unati says, kids must be checked before they enter the schools, even call the police to check for tattoos. I wonder how that will help, though. But anyway, because we've seen this happening all over the place.
And I think one of the big things, though, is to also make sure that the perimeter of the school is secure, because it is also very easy to access some schools.
That's true. So we're also conducting a poll, though, on how well you should know your future spouse's financial habits, especially if you plan to marry them without a prenuptial contract, of course. So, Kendall, this is the question we pose in our poll.
Yes, quite a lot of votes come in. 164 have come in, and still around about the same, where 71% say yes, you should check your partner's credit record before getting married, and 29% no, not necessary.
Those are the guys that are in trouble, you know, so you can't check my credit record. But that's the poll there, so you can also let us know what's on your mind in terms of that one. Lucky Malachi says, first marriage, later deal with whatever burdens and difference you both have. Remember, money is the root of all evil.
If I may, Lucky Malachi, it's actually the love of money that's the root of all evil. And Sipo comes in with, sir, after doing a checkup, that's where you'll know whether a person you're married is taking you forward or backwards.
So do a checkup. Lucky comes back, he says, no. It's totally intrusion and inconsistent. Hashtag marriage. Looking for marriage or finances? Which one are you looking for? Married for life comes with its matters. Yeah? You get what you're looking for, hey?
Yes, it's a pretty much a lucky package. Unati Grootboom comes in with, yes, you must check someone's credit record, otherwise you will get into trouble. Credit record, married life, SABC.
Now, this hour we will discuss that with the credit ombud to find out how you should be able to check your partner's credit record before you get married to make sure that you're both out of trouble. But let's get down to the business of the day today with your headlines. Tshwane University of Technology's main campus in Pretoria West has been closed for a day due to violent protests, student protests last night. The health ombud, Professor Malachapuru Makhoba, has revealed that the death toll among mentally ill patients in Gauteng has now risen to more than 100. And it did say it's still counting. And the South African Human Rights Commission's two-day national hearing on racism and social media kicks off today in Braamfontein in Johannesburg. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much.
Every Saturday at 12.
Welcome back to the final hour here on the Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Kendall Makamate.
And we'll be with you until 12 o'clock. Now, yesterday, Kendall, we celebrated love all over the world. And
yes, we
today?
Did. Today it's a story of a different kind.
Yeah,
a little more disturbing.
Violence.
Absolutely.
In schools, of all places. Gangs in the northern areas of Port Elizabeth seems to have turned their attention on school learners to join, pay the protection fee, or die. they use a little bullet that they put on the child's table, and that is the warning.
That's shocking.
Unbelievable. That's why we ask you this question. How do you or we combat gangsterism in our schools? That's the question. Let's take a look at some of your tweets and what you have to say about that.
Well, here we go. We've got Ronald Duki saying gangsters in schools are like terrorists in our country or hood. Absolutely no, 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 no.
And I said no, no, no. African Kid says more focus is put on the content. Schools ignore other talents. Hence, more e-mural activities might help. That mural that we've seen in Port Elizabeth earlier, where they put up that mural, it says no more violence and peace in our community.
Yes, sir. And Bantu says, in my days, we were searched at the gate. Maybe surprise police visits twice a month to keep everyone on their toes. That is one way of trying to deal with it.
That's one way. I would even suggest once a week, for that matter. Unati says kids must be checked before they enter the schools, even call the police to check for tattoos. I wonder how that will help, though. But anyway, because we've seen this happening all over the place.
And I think one of the big things, though, is also make sure that the perimeter of the school is secure, because it is also very easy to access some schools.
That's true. So we're also conducting a poll, though, on how well you should know your future spouse's financial habits, especially if you plan to marry them without a prenuptial contract, of course. So, Kendall, this is the question we pose in our poll.
Yes, quite a lot of votes come in. 164 have come in, and still around about the same, where 71% say yes, you should check your partner's credit record before getting married, and 29% no, not necessary.
Those are the guys that are in trouble, you know. So you can't check my credit record. But that's the poll there, so you can also let us know what's on your mind in terms of that one. Lucky Malachi says, first marriage, later deal with whatever burdens and difference you both have. Remember, money is the root of all evil.
If I may, Lucky Malachi, it's actually the love of money that's the root of all evil. And Sipo comes in with, sir, after doing a checkup, that's where you'll know whether a person you're married is taking you forward or backwards.
So do a checkup. Lucky comes back, he says, no. It's totally intrusion and inconsistent. Hashtag marriage. Looking for marriage or finances? Which one are you looking for? Married for life comes with its matters. Yeah? You get what you're looking for, hey?
Yes, it's a pretty much a lucky packet. Unati Grootboom comes in with, yes, you must check someone's credit record, otherwise you will get into trouble. Credit record, married life, SABC.
Now, this hour we will discuss that with the credit ombudsman to find out how you should be able to check your partner's credit record before you get married to make sure that you're both out of trouble. But let's get down to the business of the day today with your headlines. Tshwane University of Technology's main campus in Pretoria West has been closed for a day due to violent protests, student protests last night. The health ombud, Professor Malachapuru Makhoba, has revealed that the death toll among mentally ill patients in Gauteng has now risen to more than 100. And he did say it's still counting. And the South African Human Rights Commission's two-day national hearing on racism and social media kicks off today in Braamfontein in Johannesburg. Those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makramate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Quite a lot on the sports field, especially in the world of football. Lots of really interesting results coming out of the world of football yesterday and last night. Good morning to you. This is what you have in the sports today. Chipa United deny Mamelodi Sundowns a top 3 spot, holding them to a 1-1 draw at a waterlogged Sisadukashi Stadium in Mdantsane.
Tonight we play percentage football because it's like rugby. We can't play on the ground.
Di Maria hit them, as we know, with his left foot, just like that.
A shock result in Paris as birthday boy Angel Di Maria puts on a sizzling display, bagging a brace as PSG destroy a confused and lackluster Barcelona by 4-0.
And the Academy have chosen Nico Rosberg.
And on a night of surprises, retired Formula 1 driver Nico Rosberg beat world record holder and Olympic gold medalist Wout van Aert to the Laureus Breakthrough of the Year award. All this and more later on the Sports Bulletin at 11:35. For now, it is back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The death toll among mentally ill patients here in Gauteng has now risen to more than 100. That's according to the Health Ombudsman, Professor Malagapuru Makgoba, who was briefing a joint committee on health from Parliamentary and the NCOP. The mentally ill patients were transferred from Life Isidimeni to various Gauteng NGOs which do not have valid licenses. Meanwhile, 7 of the 27 NGOs in Gauteng, where 94 mentally ill patients died last year, have been shut down, and the rest will be shut down in due course. This was announced by the Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi and the newly appointed Gauteng Health MEC Gwen Ramakopa at a media briefing in Pretoria. The minister also disclosed that the bodies of 19 of the patients are yet to be claimed.
SABC, the South African Police Services, has started this work as early as September 2016 with forensic investigations and the processes to help identify some of the bodies not yet claimed by relatives. At the moment, I'm aware that they are busy with identification and postmortems on at least 19 bodies.
There is a process of the social workers and the Department of Social Development, and in that healing session, there will still be all these experts as well to support the families and to ensure that the families, are fully involved.
Management of the Tshwane University of Technology says it will engage various stakeholders today in an effort to establish the cause of a violent student protest which started last night. The protest has prompted the closure of the university's main campus in Pretoria West. TUT spokesperson Willa de Ruyter says that the main campus is the only one that has been affected by the strike, while it is business as usual in other campuses. The institution says it will engage with student leaders to find out what their grievances are. Meanwhile, the South African Weather Service has forecast localized flooding around the Kruger National Park as well as the Mpumalanga Lowveld. Some areas in Limpopo have also been warned of the floods as Tropical Storm Dineo is expected to reach South Africa tomorrow. The storm is currently classified as severe and it's over the Mozambican Channel. It is likely to intensify to intense tropical cyclone status by as early as this afternoon. That's today. Dineo is expected to make landfall near Inhambane in southern Mozambique this evening. It's likely to pack up winds of up to 166 kilometers per hour. Forecasters say people in areas that will be affected should take precautions. Now, to discuss this further about Tropical Cyclone Dineo was becoming increasingly impressive as well as almost people are very, very, very scared about this increasing storm that's appearing on the Mozambican border. We're joined here in studio by our main man, the man with a plan, Tsetsi Monari. He is our climatologist for the SABC. A very good morning to you, and meteorologist, not climatologist.
Yes, there you go.
Talk to me about this angry lady, Dineo.
Yeah, Dineo seems quite fierce. I mean, we've been noticing this about 3 or 4 days ago, and it's been looking like it's going to be quite silent, and it's just going to move away, as they usually do. They hardly cross over into the Mozambican Channel. And this one seems like it has. I mean, look at that beautiful picture there. It looks beautiful from a meteorological point of view, but from the impact that it can cause. So if you can maybe just jump into the weather slides, and I'll start showing you exactly what is happening with the tropical cyclone. Is actually intensified now, and it is already classified as a tropical cyclone, and it is intensifying, getting a lot stronger. We're expecting it to hit landfall just about tomorrow morning, so it's getting a lot closer. And at those kind of speeds, 166 kilometers an hour, that's pretty fast and pretty strong, so it could be quite devastating.
That's very strong. You won't be able to hang on to something there, Tsetsi.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, so if you are a light person, you will get blown away by the storm. So, yeah, and in terms of the amount of rainfall that is bringing about, I mean, we're expecting quite a lot for places such as the southern part of Mozambique, for all those that are going to be in Limpopo province, and maybe even Mpumalanga. You should expect, things from 200 millimeters in just one day. It's quite a lot of rainfall that will be coming through.
I remember the storms in Mozambique many years ago. Remember that classic picture with the woman with her baby in the tree? Is that similar to that we can expect in terms of the water that will come through?
Yes, absolutely. Depending where you are, most of the rivers will be filled along its path because, I mean, there's going to be a lot of rainfall. And yes, like you say, the pictures in the early 2000s that we saw there with people on top of houses and people on top of trees. Yeah, that's basically the same situation that you can expect. And it's going to be actually quite devastating. So this is going to it's going to be one of the most severe ones we've had. And you can see from the satellite image, well, just cross now over, but yeah, that's the storm. It's already past Madagascar. It's fairly across the Mozambican Channel now. And that's basically just indicating the amount of rainfall that you should expect along there.
It looks pretty severe. Is this the worst storm that Southern Africa has ever had?
No, not necessarily the worst.
In terms of a tropical storm?
Yeah, we've seen some devastating ones. I don't know if maybe you would remember back in the 80s. I mean, I was not around just yet. But we had one called Tropical Cyclone Dineo, which was quite big. It had some serious flooding and it was very, very close to the southernmost tip of Mozambique, much closer to South Africa. So people in Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal was severely affected. Yeah, so this one is certainly not the biggest, but it's in recent times. I mean, we haven't seen one this hectic in the last 10 years or so. So yeah, this is actually something really to be afraid of.
So is there a difference between this tropical cyclone that we've seen, a hurricane and a monsoon?
Well, not so much a difference. I mean, they're all quite intense. Like I said, if you can just jump into the weather system, like the weather slides will show us just now, so maybe hopefully they can patch us through there. It's not much different from a hurricane or from typhoon or monsoons. They basically have similar qualities, just that they happen in different locations across the world.
I see.
Yeah, if you look at here in Southern Africa, we get what we call them tropical cyclones, and they're really bad. And then in the United States, that's what they get hurricanes. Yeah, they almost similar intensities, just that they happen in different parts of the world with the typhoons. And in Australia, I think they refer to them as the Willy Wileys. Yes, they've got a funky name like that, Willy Wileys in Australia.
Now, looking at this particular storm, we just come through a very devastating drought. Does that mean the end of the drought as well?
No, certainly not. No, it does not. I mean, storms like this, don't bring rains that last 3 or 4 months. This is probably going to last 5 or 6 days, and then it's going to be over again. And at the same time, it's going to bring drier conditions towards the interior as well as the western half of the country. It's the air, the way the air moves. It's the tropical cyclones are sort of a clockwise movement of moisture. Yeah. So when it brings air on the northeast, rainfall on the northeastern side, it actually blows wind towards the southwestern regions, making it a lot drier there. So we are going to experience more drought or drier conditions for the Northern Cape province and the Western Cape. So this is not a solution that's going to get rid of the drought. Yes, there will be lots of rainfall for the east and the southern eastern part of South Africa, but not enough to actually relieve us from this drought situation.
So preparations for people out there that in the affected provinces?
Yeah, the basic things. Make sure you have built some of your sandbanks, block out, if you're in low-lying areas, dig a little bit a trench, just channel the water out of your way there. And I could also recommend some possible evacuation in some places. In Nyambane, in Mozambique, most certainly Ponta Doro, those Mozambique, Shai, those areas. For South Africa, I really would not say evacuation just as yet, but we all need to be extra careful. Try not to be on the roads when you see that it's getting super gloomy out there. When the rains come through, you can never judge. I mean, low-lying bridges, areas where there's lots of water around, water bodies like rivers and small little spruit there. Please don't take any chances. Don't try to cross water that are going above your knee height. I mean, that can actually sweep you away, no matter how tall or how strong you are. So please be extra careful. Try not to drive. Stay at home, and just stay in high-lying areas.
Mr. Munari, thank you so much for your input here. That was our SABC meteorologist, Paul Tsetsi Munari, talking to us about the impacts of the tropical cyclone Dineo. If you made her angry, please let her know that you're sorry, and maybe she'll calm down. Let's move on now to other news stories. A mining investment worth 650 million rand has been pumped into the economy of the Northern Cape. UK-registered company Interalloys Trading Limited has partnered with a local company, Onicaster, in the new mining venture. The two companies are set to revive operations at Griquastad's Rooinecker iron ore mine, which shut down in 1975.
40 years ago, this disused mine was a hive of activity. The decline in commodity prices and other challenges have since led to the mine shutting down. But this is all in the past. Amongst planned developments, the construction of a railway line set to link all emerging mining operations with those controlled by the industry giants.
As you would know, the majors have all the lines basically to themselves, and us as emerging miners, we basically get into contracts with them, and they assist us to move our product through their loading facilities onto rail.
For the depressed town of Griquastad, this economic injection will change the lives of the locals.
We didn't do anything. Look at the CPS grants, funds of the old people, the children people. So if this mine can start here in Griquastad, it will be a big change.
For most of the youth, we are unemployed and we don't have nothing else to do. So it will be a good thing if the mine can come and open so that everyone who needs this job, and there's an opportunity for each of us.
The mine is expected to reopen in April this year. Luvolwetu Kavata, SABC News, Griquastad in the Northern Cape.
Two men will appear in court today in connection with the murder of the Soweto restaurant manager Kwesi Hudson. Gauteng police made the arrest yesterday. The 60-year-old manager of the popular Soweto restaurant Sakumzi was shot dead during an armed robbery. The suspects, aged 23 and 25, will appear at the Orlando Magistrates Court on charges of murder, armed robbery and possession of an unlicensed firearm. The police also seized a vehicle believed to have been used in the robbery. They are looking for at least two more suspects. The South African Human Rights Commission will today start hosting a two-day national hearing on racism and social media in Braamfontein here in Johannesburg. The Commission says despite the significant achievements over the past 22 years of democracy, deep inequalities and unfair discrimination remain commonplace. It says that the majority of complaints received by the Commission relate to discrimination based on race. During the past financial year, it received over 500 race-related complaints. The Commission says the advent of social media has further complicated the country's attempts to address discrimination. Now, as you know, we ran this story last week sometime. We're going to follow it up with after the hearings to find out what transpired in those hearings with the Human Rights Commission. So you have to stay tuned here on 404 constantly, 24 hours a day on 404. But we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. And remember, today we're discussing that very important issue about your spouse's details, their credit details. Are they credit worthy or not before you get married? Let's take a break. Welcome back. Now, we've been at it this whole morning when we're conducting that poll to show or to ask you that very important question. What do you know about your partner before you get married, especially when it comes to finances? Let's take a look at the poll and the question that we posed to you and where it stands right now. Remember, there's a number of hours left that you can do. We're asking you the question, should you check your partner's credit record before marriage? So far, we have 173 votes in. There's 21 hours left to vote now. 69% of you, almost 70%, are saying that you should check your partner's credit record before marriage. And 31% are saying no way. That's probably all the ladies are saying no, I'm sure. But let's hear it from you. You can let us know what's on your mind. Let's take a look at some of your comments coming through on the question, should you check your partner's credit records before you get married? Is there any comments as yet, refreshed ones, so we can put it up or not? We'll come back to them in a short while if it's not up as yet. So it's the month of love, where many men will go on their knees and ask the ones they love to marry them. Here's one of the tweets that says from Unati, yes, you must check someone's credit record, otherwise you will get into trouble. Hashtag credit record married for life. Lucky Malachi says, no. It is totally intrusion and inconsistent hashtag marriage. Are you looking for marriage or are you looking for finances? Married life comes with all these matters. You need to deal with it as you go along. Sipo says, sir, after doing a checkup, that's where you'll know whether a person you are married to is taking you forward or backwards. Sipo. Lucky says, first, marriage, later deal with whatever the burdens or the difference you both have. Remember, money is the root of all evil. The love of money, as Kendall pointed out, Lucky a little earlier. So keep them coming. We'll read those comments as we continue. Now, the real question is today, how well do you know your future spouse's financial habits, especially if you plan to marry them without a prenuptial contract? Do you know what that is? How much debt do they have? Over-indebtedness here in this country, impaired credit records, reports, and bad financial habits have the potential to choke your marriage to death. The credit ombudsman advises consumers on the advantages of understanding each other's finances. Now, for more on this, we are joined here in studio by the credit ombudsman, Salem Nolubalo Jafta. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, you see that we're conducting this poll. What do you make of that, first and foremost? As you can see, the majority are saying yes, they need to check it out.
Yes, look, it's very important because in as much as some people say, are you looking for marriage or are you looking for money? But money is a big part of the marriage. I mean, you guys are responsible for everything now in the household. There's going to be children. Imagine now you are married to this person and you guys now want to go and buy a house. And all of a sudden, then they do that whole credit check and then, oops, somebody's blacklisted. And now we can't move forward. What now? So that is why we're actually saying, as unromantic as it is, okay? I mean, I can't imagine a lady saying, when you bring that ring, bring it wrapped around a credit report. But I mean, it is very important to understand what your spending habits are. One person can look great, they can dress well, drive a nice car, but you don't know how they fund that particular lifestyle. Are they living debt to debt on a monthly basis? Are they paying their accounts well? Are they in default every month? What is really happening? It's not to say you are intruding on the person's financial status, but you're trying to understand from here going forward, how are we going to manage this? Because it's usually unfair when the one person comes all clean and ready and the other person is just bringing all this baggage that you're not even sure how to deal with.
Talking about that baggage, a bad credit record, how does it affect an individual?
Well, it affects your future in terms of applying for credit. Let's say, for example, you have a clothing account or a cell phone contract. When you pay on a monthly basis, or when you skip, or when you pay late, or when you don't make a payment. All of that is recorded every month in the credit bureau in the form of what is called a credit report. And we see it in the complaints that we get in the credit ombuds office, where consumers would come and say, we've recently gotten married, we want to buy a house, but my wife or my husband is blacklisted, therefore we are unable to. Because the way you conduct your previous or your current accounts is actually affecting what's happening in the future. So that's how it affects you. When you want to do big purchases, it then becomes a problem and it hinders you going forward.
Now, if you want to check out your spouse's credit record, how do you go about doing that? Because that's personal information, isn't it?
You need their consent. You definitely need the consent. You can't go and check somebody else's credit profile without them giving you permission. So we always saying is, discuss this, do it together. Draw your credit report, I draw mine, we sit here and we say, okay, this is what you have, this is what I have. It looks like you are on the verge of trouble here. How do we fix this in order for us to move forward?
And you have to fix that first before you even get married, because after that it will be combined, the two records together, isn't it?
Correct. It's both our responsibility going forward. So if we don't fix it, look, some of the problems are not really that big. And it's up to the couple, really. But we're saying that look at what you need to fix. You can't fix what you don't know.
So, and you can't go behind the person's back to do that either.
No.
So I can't come to you and say, listen, I want this person credit record. I really like this person, but I'm not too sure about her. But I don't also want to let her know that I'm checking her out.
You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. You are not going to get it from the credit bureaus. You do need the permission of the person to actually draw their profile.
There is not just one credit bureau. There's a couple of them. But yes, so you have to get credit records from all of them?
So consumers are entitled to one free report every 12 months. Every 12 months you are entitled to get. There are about 14 registered credit bureaus in South Africa.
My goodness.
Yes, we have 4 main credit bureaus where consumers can actually go and draw the credit report. Otherwise, they can go to the Credit Ombud website and get the details from there as to where to get the credit profiles.
Now, what is your advice then to consumers moving forward when they've now taken that step and they don't enter into that prenuptial agreement? And explain the prenuptial agreement so people can understand that too.
All right. Basically, you know, there are people who get married and what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours, your debt is my debt, and.
Yeah.
Some people enter and say, whatever we come with, whatever you come into the marriage with before we sign, is yours and it's mine. But when we are in the marriage, it's jointly ours. All right? So especially even if you enter into a prenup, you have a contract signed. Point is, we are living together. Your debt will affect me. My debt will affect you. It's only when people get divorced, then we say, whatever you incurred is yours before we got married. But the point is, while we are living together, how are we conducting these accounts and debt? So the advice that we give is, you can't fix what you don't know. Get that credit report. Be open about your finances. Be open about what happens in the credit bureau. You might afford, but you might not be paying them well. You might be paying late. You might say, I forgot this account, I'll pay double next month. Not realizing that it's affecting you negatively and it's dropping your credit score. So that's why it's important. It's not just about affording, but it's about understanding what is happening and how do we fix it? How do the scores look like? So that tomorrow, when we want to do things jointly, we can be able to.
Is love getting perhaps too complicated before you get married? Because it seems like now you have to bring your credit reports, your medical reports and everything else, and it clouds the entire, this romantic thing that we put together.
Look.
Or is it the reality check?
I want to say that it's reality because we've seen marriages being choked to death by debt, till death do us part. You know, we've seen that. So we are saying, rather than going in blindly, and then you are there and you're so overwhelmed because now you have all these expectations and nothing is coming into reality, rather check up front. So yes, it sounds like it's complicated, but it is reality. You either face it or you don't.
Just briefly, people that find themselves now in that position already, how do they assist themselves and who can help them?
Well, we see a lot of complaints coming through to the Credit Ombud for advice or to investigate, because sometimes you find that whatever situation you're in, sometimes it's not really your doing. Sometimes you are overcharged interest or the debt has prescribed or whatever the issue is. That is why we actually take on those cases and problems as the Credit Ombud's office to actually investigate and see how we can help couples who are going to enter into a marriage or are already in the marriage and in the problem, to see how we can actually assist them with their credit-related or credit bureau-related matters.
Where do they get hold of the Credit Ombud?
They can SMS the word help and their name to the number 44786, or they can send us an email to ombud@creditombud.org.za, or they can call us if they prefer, 0861 662 837.
I think that's the easier ones. Thank you so much for joining us here in
you for
studio.
having me.
That was the Credit Ombud, Salam Nolubalo Jafta. Let's take a look at that numbers again. 44786. That's the SMS line. Started with the word help, and you can send it there, and they'll provide you some information. Or 0861 662 837. Now we're running that poll. We're conducting it here today. We want to find out. Let's just show Ms. Jafta what we've got here on the poll as we stand right now, if we can bring it up. There it is. Should you check your partner's credit record before marriage? 174. 70% now are saying yes, we need to check it out, and 30% are saying no. You can tweet us on the question and let us know what's on your mind. Have you checked out your spouse before you got married, or even before you got engaged, or even before you went out on the first date? Let's move on now. In at least the past year, South Africa has seen a noticeable rise in hate speech expressed on social media. You remember Penny Sparrow being the embodiment of social media racism with her Facebook post last year. Others have since followed and have raised the debate on limitations of the right to freedom of expression to another level. The recent hate speech directed at homosexuals expressed by a visiting pastor at Grace Bible Church in Soweto did not happen on social media. However, social media became that platform for people to debate homophobia, with religion taking center stage as a point of reference. Now, to discuss this, Evan Janssen was joined in studio by the lecturer at the Department of Religious Studies here at University of Johannesburg, Professor Farid Essak.
Any text can be read in many ways. It's a typical story of two looked out from behind prison bars. The one saw mud, the other saw stars. So you locate it, you look outside, what do you see? And for many of our religious communities, they come with predispositions. They come with predispositions, they come with what is called in philosophy pretexts. They have their own prejudices, they have their own assumptions about their gods, about their communities. And so God for some communities becomes a male, and God is white. And God is angry, God is vengeful, God is probably a heterosexual, and God is, I mean, we see it at other levels. I mean, so God becomes a South African mascot because we pray to God to give us victory on the rugby field tomorrow. God becomes a flag-waving South African or a flag-waving United States citizen as we're going to fight the war against another country tomorrow. So we create images in our, and so when you are homophobic, when you are sexist, this is the way you want to read your text. And unfortunately, the problem with religious texts is you get away with it. You just say, but the Bible says, but it is clearly written in the Quran. And anybody that deals with biblical studies and with Quranic studies know that these texts are much more nuanced and multi-layered than what ordinary demagogues or simplistic preachers want to make out.
Do churches in South Africa and on the rest of the continent have a problem with homophobia?
I think it is universal, certainly in Africa, but in large other parts of the country, in large other parts of the world as well. It's not an entirely African problem. And by homophobia, we suggest that there is an automatic fear, an automatic anxiety about other people's sexual orientation. Which I find fascinating. I mean, I find it fascinating that you as a person should be obsessed with what somebody else does. Quite frankly, I think the only moment when you have a legitimate interest in the sexual orientation of another person is when you have an eye on the person yourself. Then you need to figure out, is it worth making a move? Is it worth going any further with this or not?
Yeah.
If you're a gay person and the other person is completely straight, then there's no point. So I'm not going to ask. So this curiosity, obsession with other people's sexuality, I think it is a kind of malaise, it is a kind of psychological illness, and I really think that people need to reflect upon themselves when they develop these kinds of obsessions about what other people do in their bedrooms.
Now, this malaise, unfortunately, always finds its place on social media. It kind of comes from the pulpit or from wherever, and it finds its way onto social media. This week, the Human Rights Commission will be having these kinds of hearings around these kind of bigoted discussions that find their way on social media. How do you view this kind of hearing, and what would you like the outcomes of it to be?
Well, I mean, a number of Chapter 9 institutions like the Human Rights Commission and the Gender Equality in the past have had various hearings into different kinds of discriminations and so on. The one huge difficulty with many of these things is that the hearing itself becomes the event and there is very little follow-up. But there is also a limit, I think, to what state institutions can do. They have the responsibility to advance the values of democracy, including in this particular case, non-racialism, work against homophobia, work against religious discrimination, and so on. So I think the fact that there is a discussion about it, the fact that people are seriously confronting rampant hate speech on social media, not the media in general, in social media, I think it is significant. I do think that a post-South African, well, you can't really speak about a post-apartheid South Africa because social media itself is a post-apartheid phenomenon. But there has been an escalation in hate speech. The more and more black people come into the forefront, into fullness, into positions of authority, the more and more one sees that racists who thought that everything will be the same in a post... The more and more they are coming to the fore. But there are, of course, also other forms of racism that have emerged. Two of the longest forms of racism has been homophobia and anti-Semitism. I mean, historically, in the history of humankind, or in the known history, certainly the last 3,000 years or so, these have been what we know. One of the but that doesn't mean because it's been the longest form that it's the most dominant form. The dominant form largely is still anti-black racism. And in much of the West, unfortunately, religious bigotry against Islam in the form of Islamophobia. We have seen an escalation of Islamophobia and of black racism in our social media.
In conclusion, we see this rise of call it right-wing rhetoric, if one can call it that, around the world. We've seen Brexit, we see the rise of Donald Trump and the kind of things. We've seen the Muslim ban, as you've just pointed out, Islamophobia, homophobia, and so forth. Yeah, in South Africa, well, in that sort of context, when you say, oh, our problem is only a little bit on social media, but how do we strike a balance as a society between the right to express your religious beliefs and the right of an individual?
Look, the one problem is that scriptures, again, you can find in them what you want to, but the reality is also that scriptures overwhelmingly weigh in against same-sex expressions of same-sex sexuality.
Yeah.
And so preachers who use scriptures to legitimate hate speech against people, against homosexual people, they do have a much stronger case located in scriptures.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, there is the freedom of religious expression, and on the other hand, you're sitting with the question of hate speech. Until now, South Africans have done a very good job of balancing these rights. I do think that greater focus, greater glare must be placed on people who espouse hate speech. But I don't think that we can get to the stage. I mean, our constitution is clear. The one is violence, and the other one is the promotion of speech, which is hate speech, and the other one which leads to imminent violence. I don't think that that the condemnation of what in religious language may be called a sin. I don't think that that should be described as hate speech. If you say this kind of conduct is disagreeable, it is against our religion, it is sinful, people will be punished for it, that is, the state cannot touch that. But the state, when the state hears people being incited to act against people who are different, people who are black, against people who dress like this, and therefore they're inviting rape and so on. I think the state has a responsibility to intervene in those cases and to make sure that people are actually prosecuted for inciting harm against people who, for some reason or the other, don't fit the ideal of what a religious person should be.
That was Professor Farid Esak from the Department of Religion Studies at the University of Johannesburg. He's a lecturer there. And now it's time for the sport, and what better way to start than with Absa Premiership news, where the defending champions Mamelodi Sundowns were held by Chippa United in a match played on a waterlogged surface in Mdantsane in the Eastern Cape last night. Defender Wayne Arendse played both hero and villain in the match, as he scored for the Brazilians but then gave away a penalty at the other end as the match finished 1-1. Sundowns remained 5th on the log, and Chippa United have replaced Maritzburg United in the top 8.
It's good to be in the township. A lot was expected from Sundowns after walloping Orlando Pirates 6-0 on Saturday in Pretoria. But Pito Musimane made wholesome changes to the team that started against Pirates, as he has one eye on the Super Cup against TP Mazembe on Saturday. Wayne Arendse announced his return from suspension with a composed finish from Deco Mutise's free kick.
Shot to the back post, goal! Wayne Arendse punishes a defensive lap by Chippa United.
Sundowns' lead, however, didn't last long, as midfielder Buyani Sali was fouled by Arendse inside the penalty area. And Rulani Manzini stepped up and grabbed the equalizer for the home team.
Excellent goal from Manzini, strikes it firmly down the middle, and we have the equalizer here.
The Chili Boys nearly stole all 3 points at the death, but Wayne Sunderlands produced a fine save to deny Linda Shiba.
The biggest thing I appreciate here is the atmosphere here, electrifying, and unfortunately the pitch did not match that. If the pitch matched the quality of the players that were on the field, then we would have been talking something different probably. It's going to be difficult because we have to drive to Bloemfontein, and the field was very heavy today, so we have to be very cautious as to what we do in preparation for the match.
Under the circumstances, we will take a point, because you can't play football, eh? We play that one, you know which one, eh? Up in the air. That's not football. It's not good for Chippa. It's not good for Sundowns. We don't play percentage football. But tonight we play in percentage football because it's like rugby. We can't play on the ground.
There will be 3 league matches this evening. Dejected Orlando Pirates will host the high-flying Bidvest Vets at the Orlando Stadium. Third place, the SuperSports United will travel to Orkney to take on Free State Stars, who are amongst the bottom 3 on the log. And the Baroka will face Platinum Stars at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. All 3 matches will kick off at 7:30 p.m. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
Now, of course, there'll be a whole lot more action tonight in the PSL. As you know, it's come back into action all the way through from that very long break that we had. But now it is in full swing. We've got some matches on the go tonight. And Mamelodi Sundowns, they failed to take an opportunity to go into the top three. But you know what? Tonight, Bidvest Vets up against Orlando Pirates at the Orlando Stadium, 7:30 kickoff. They'll have a chance to go top of the log based on goal difference should they win. But having said that, we've also got SuperSport United that are knocking on that door. In fact, they just shifted from where they were to a top four. They'll be going in there shortly to play against Free State Stars, and we'll see how that goes. They could go top as well. Platinum Stars against the struggling Baroka FC, who you remember were recently promoted from the NFD into the PSL, and they've been struggling. They're sitting bottom of the log currently and need a win tonight. Now, staying with footballing news and going a little further afield to news, massive news from last night, where Paris Saint-Germain's Angel Di Maria was at his sublime best as he scored twice on his birthday in a 4-0 first leg demolition of Barcelona, who now have a mountain to climb in their second leg UEFA Champions League last 16 clash. The 29-year-old Argentine winger scored in each half as the French champions tore apart a disorganized Barca side. No team has ever overturned a deficit of 4 more goals to progress in the Champions League knockout stages.
PSG eliminated by the Catalans in the Champions League quarter-finals in 2013 and 2015 were the more aggressive side and have put themselves in a commanding position ahead of the match 8 second leg at the Camp Nou. 5 times European champions Barca have not exited in the last 16 since going out to Liverpool in the 2006-2007 season, and the score equaled their West Champions League loss. Di Maria scored from a free kick in the 18th minute before German midfielder Julian Drexler increased the lead 5 minutes before the break.
2-0 up with Julian Drexler.
PSG started the second half strongly and went further ahead 10 minutes into the second half through another Di Maria strike.
He scores again. It's 3-0 here.
Edinson Cavani, who was also celebrating his 30th birthday, scored his 7th goal in 7 games in the competition this season.
Cavani can hit it and does hit it. 4-0.
In another match played last night, Benfica made Borussia Dortmund pay for missing a host of chances as the Portuguese side snatched a 1-0 win to take a slender lead into the second leg. Greece international Kostas Mitroglou flicked the ball into the net in the 48th minute, which was his 13th goal in 13 matches.
Delirium inside the stadium.
2 more matches will be played tonight. 11-time champions Real Madrid will be at home to Italian club Napoli, while German giants Bayern Munich will host English club Arsenal. Sfeso Ramara, SABC News.
Now, Jamaican sprint king Usain Bolt and American gymnast Simone Biles took the top accolades at the Laureate Sports Awards in Monaco last night. Olympic gold medalist Bolt and Biles were named Sportsman and Sportswoman of the Year, respectively, following their achievements in Rio de Janeiro last year.
Bolt bagged 3 gold medals at the 2016 Rio Games in August, in the 100 metres, 200 metres and 4x100 metres relay. Regarded as the greatest athlete of all time, he received his 4th Laureate Award to equal the record of tennis legends Roger Federer and Serena Williams.
One of my mottos is that, anything is possible. Don't think limits. And I feel that I've proven that throughout the years. I never thought I would be this great at what I've done. But I want to say to the young kids growing up, just live your dream. Work hard, stay focused, and just be strong and just keep on pushing, and it will come true.
Biles was rewarded for her 4 gold medals in Rio, in the team, all-round vault and floor exercise events. South African-based upliftment project Waves for Change received the Sport for Good award. Waves for Change uses surfing to address the psychological challenges for children growing up in the townships of South Africa.
About 6 years ago, we came to you guys with a concept for surf therapy. We wanted to work
in post-conflict communities, in violent communities, and find a new way to help young people deal with stress. You believed in us, you funded us, you connected us to universities, and now we're here. And our program is reaching almost 1,000 people around the world, in South Africa, in Liberia, and we are here because you guys believed in us, and I would like to say thank you very much.
Formula One winner Nico Rosberg of Germany beat South Africa's Wade van Niekerk in the Breakthrough of the Year category. Rosberg, however, quit the sport in December, 5 days after being crowned world champion.
History in Beijing for Michael Phelps.
American swimmer Michael Phelps won the Comeback of the Year award. Phelps won his 23rd Olympic gold medal in Rio. The Chicago Cubs was named Team of the Year, while Leicester City won the Spirit of Sport award for their remarkable Premier League win. Liesl Zankel, SABC News.
Now, some have it that Nico Rosberg is from Monaco, and that was a home decision, him getting that award over Wade van Niekerk. I say no more, leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is Kendall Makamat. You've been watching Newsroom. Until tomorrow, this is Alex Sintle.